Damn, bro.
Salutations, everyone. Shadow Taurus here, and hopefully the audio sounds good. I don't know who at all is actually viewing this, but welcome. Today we're going to be doing some live streaming. And so basically in today's video, we're going to be reacting to some power scaling content. I've got a couple videos lined up that I want to react to and give my thoughts on. Now, a couple of these I have watched before. I believe the first couple I've already watched. This one that we're going to be reacting to is Noodles' Jiraiya Strength Revealed. I have and so this is one of the videos. I watched this with my friend Toxic. He's a good friend of mine and a power scaler, and I watched it with him. So we're going to be watching this video. Let me quickly shut off the music. I use actually, let me just move that to like its own little thing so you guys don't have to see it. Oh fuck, hold on. I messed up already. Okay, there we go. So I moved it to its own little thing. Again, hopefully people are... Yeah, let us begin. Alright, so this is his video. Hopefully it doesn't kill my ears. We're going to watch this video and react to it.
Today I'm bringing you a video that was sponsored by my boy Chronicler. Chronicler is always on my streams and is always showing me love through mad big donations. He's a big fan of Jiraiya and has been wanting to see a power scale done.
Okay, so we're just going to skip to the straight power scale because of the fact that I don't want to listen to his intro.
Speed and abilities of the legendary Toad Sage Jiraiya.
He is him. Now, this is actually correct. Jiraiya is him. Jiraiya is underrated, but also he's also a little overrated sometimes. I believe Jiraiya is a very top tier character. Well, not top tier, but like in the mid Kage range, probably like the how do you say it? The like edge of mid Kage. Like he's the gateway to high Kage in my opinion. You know, he's, you know, pretty good at himself. Anyways, let's continue watching.
In his first showing ever, Jiraiya is found researching at the hot springs.
So it doesn't sound like he has any music in the background, so we're actually gonna turn back on our music. Our like lo-fi beats. Hopefully it's not too loud. I don't know if it's too loud myself. So we're just gonna turn these back on while we watch.
Ebisu attempts to confront him in the name of respect. Jiraiya uses one of his Toad summons Gamma to knock out Ebisu immediately, which is not all that impressive because Ebisu is considered to be a special Jonin known for his teaching ability. For those that don't know, special Jonin are not at all impressive in combat, but rather have special talents that allow them to be considered for higher ranking.
That is true. A special Jonin in lore is a character who in all aspects except for one is roughly like Chunin level, but in one aspect they have a Jonin level attribute. For this guy's talking about, it is teaching, and I believe for another one he will I'm about to say Inosuke, that's not his name. But he's the Jonin commander of he's the commander of the interrogation, I believe. He talks about in this video. He has the Jonin attribute in interrogation. So, yeah. Oh, I pressed the wrong. I thought I was clicking play.
Ibiki is another special
Ibiki,
Jonin
there
introduced during the Chunin exams and was made a Jonin because of how good he was at torturing people.
Yes, this is true.
Ebisu was a special Jonin that attempted to fight a path of pain, and although got bodied, put up a pretty good effort. How strong...
Okay, so this just means the paths of pain suck, okay? No, like, what I'm gonna say here is that the paths of pain, when it comes to the, their durability are, like, bad. They have, like, really bad durability. Because, like, I know one got, like, low diff by Konohamaru. So, yeah.
Strong Ebisu is, I'm not actually for sure, but I just find it hilarious how easily Jiraiya slapped him. In the Rasengan's first ever showing, Jiraiya was able to obliterate this random dude inside of the gambling den where he and Naruto were seeking out Tsunade. The Rasengan is a legendary technique created by the 4th Hokage, and is said in the databook to be the equivalent of a small meteor.
Okay. So, okay, let's read what he says. He's talking about this little statement here. Destructive power so incredible that it blasts right through its target and gorges the ground. The impact created from the compressed Nine Tails chakra is equivalent to the impact of a small meteor. That is wrong. Okay, this is completely taken out of context. Because that actual guidebook statement literally says the impact created from the compressed Nine Tails chakra. So this is not talking about the Rasengan. Even if it is, this is talking about potentially Nine Tails enhanced Naruto Rasengan. So that does not scale to Jiraiya in any capacity. That would just be the Nine Tails having, like, the Rasengan at this point has the attack potency of like a small meteor. So no, that doesn't really work, unfortunately for Jiraiya. So that's unfortunate. So let's get back.
This is all pretty minor scaling for Jiraiya though, as he is one of the Prodigal 3 and a Legendary Sannin, which are all regarded in Part 1 as being threats to each other.
Okay, so...
directly states it takes a Sannin to beat another member of the Prodigal 3.
So that is... I would just say Ebisu's wrong in this case. Because that is a weird no... Because, like, if you take that at face value... That would mean Hiruzen could not beat a Sannin, even though he blatantly beats Orochimaru and kind of low diffs him. So I would not use this statement because of the fact that we also see someone from the Akatsuki Itachi specifically like low diff Orochimaru. Now, if we're only taking Part 1 scaling, even then, again, I disagree. I fundamentally disagree with this scaling because of the fact that, you know, it just seems blatantly wrong. But yeah.
And then says that the only ones capable of defeating Orochimaru is Jiraiya.
That's not... Again, that's not correct. Actually, fun fact, Orochimaru beat Jiraiya. Like, when Orochimaru left the village, he beat Jiraiya. And then Orochimaru and Jiraiya just going to get stronger. But, Again, yeah.
Same idea is reciprocated in the data book, as it directly states that the three Sannin are all equal to each other.
Again, the data book's just wrong here, as we know that Orochimaru was able to beat Jiraiya, and Orochimaru scales he literally just beats Jiraiya. And we know War Arc Tsunade just blatantly scales above Jiraiya as well, so that's also interesting. But yeah, I disagree with this.
This is impressive for multiple reasons, as this puts Jiraiya at the same caliber as both Orochimaru and Tsunade.
Okay, so while I would put Jiraiya in their same tier and like a relative to the same caliber, I would not put him above at equals to either of them. I would put, if we're not using War Arc, I would put Tsunade at the bottom because she doesn't have good feats until the War Arc, and I would also put I would put Orochimaru at the top because Orochimaru just has the best feats of all of them. So yeah.
Tsunade is so strong, Jiraiya directly states that nobody can stand shoulder to shoulder with her in combat or medical ninjutsu.
So again, the problem with that is we also see, this might have been anime filler, but in the anime, I believe, we see the Raikage is able to like match her in strength. Granted, it is an arm wrestling contest, but they're both ninja. They train the relatively the same muscles, so I would argue this is a decent showing of like their strength comparative to each other, and I believe in that filler we do see that the Raikage is able to like contest her. She's winning, but regardless, again, that's anime filler. So if you don't want to use that, that's fine. But again, I'm not 100% sure.
Soon after, however, Jiraiya actually threatens Tsunade that should she accept Orochimaru's offer to bring Dawn and her brother back to life and become a threat to Konoha, Jiraiya will personally kill her. So, this yet again reinforces the idea that all the Sannin are capable of fighting and even killing each other.
Which I do agree with to an extent. I do believe that Jiraiya at this point, hold on, let me turn the music down just slightly. I do believe at this point, like, because of Tsunade having been out of practice and drinking for so long, I definitely think that Jiraiya could have killed her here. I definitely agree with that.
The fact that Jiraiya is equal to Orochimaru, a shinobi so strong that just his mere
they're not really equals. Orochimaru again is stronger because Orochimaru beat Jiraiya.
Presence fear hacks Kakashi and defeated him is an incredibly impressive feat. Kakashi himself is stated in the first data book to actually be the strongest shinobi in Konoha.
That's actually a weird statement because there's also statements of Asuma being like equal to Kakashi as well in the data books. Asuma's like no joke in the Asuma's no joke. He's kind of strong actually. But so yeah, I guess you could put Kakashi as strong shinobi in Konoha. That's fine. I would contend it with Might Guy, like Gates Guy. But again, that's just my personal thing.
Statement is contentious as Hiruzen is also shinobi in the village, but Orochimaru is also even stated in the data book to have equally matched Hiruzen during.
Okay, the data book's just blatantly wrong. The data book is blatantly wrong, and there's multiple reasons why. Okay, in the data book, not in the data book, in the manga, Hiruzen during his fight with Orochimaru really didn't fight Orochimaru very much. He was fighting the summons that Orochimaru summoned. So that's Hashirama and Tobirama. And the moment he actually did start fighting Orochimaru and actually, went at him, he bodied Orochimaru. Now some people might say, "Oh, this is just a mental amp." You could argue it's a mental amp, but at the exact same time, before when he was fending off the Hokage, Enma says like, "Oh yeah, you're not fighting how you normally do. What the fuck's wrong with you?" And you could argue Hiruzen was, mentally nerfed during this time. We got 2 people watching. Welcome, both of you. Thank you all for coming by. I appreciate you all for stopping by. Really appreciate it. So let us get back to the video. But yeah, Hiruzen blatantly scales above Orochimaru, just like objectively, based on what we see. And if you want to take that scaling a little bit step further, Hiruzen states that the Hokage of that time were at their like peak. Were just as strong as they were alive, and Hiruzen would know how strong they are, so you could just argue Orochimaru's like Edo Tensei is just leagues above Kabuto's, which is kind of crazy to think about. And this is also backed up in Shippuden when Tobirama says like, "Oh yeah, we're close, like we're almost as strong as we were when we were alive," so that's like a very funny way to scale Hiruzen above like Hashirama and shit. It's really funny. Yo, what's up, Dot Bad? Welcome. We're reacting to videos right now, and you know, debunking their power scaling. Right now, we're doing Noodles is the True Things of Jiraiya. You missed me going on a slight tangent about why Hiruzen scales above Orochimaru because in this video, Noodles is arguing that Orochimaru and him are equals, which is just like no. Which is just like, yeah, that's not how that works. They're not.
Their battle on the rooftop matched him so evenly that the battle seemed endless.
Again, you could argue the reason why the battle seemed endless was just because he was fighting Edo Tensei and they like regenerate. But again, I would just say the data book is wrong here, 100%. Either that or because I would just say the manga like overrides the data book in this case, you know, because literally Hiruzen just like disgustingly beats Orochimaru. Actually, hold on. Oh, my cursor is like visible. Hold on, let me fix that. You all probably don't want to see my cursor. Let me quickly... Please. Do not capture my cursor. Okay, there we go. Why did my thing... Hold on. Oops. Hold on. Why did it do that? Okay, there we go. We're back. We're A-okay. No, we're not A-okay. Hold on. I think we're fine. It looks like we're fine. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to fit well. Okay, there we go. We fixed it. We're good. We're great, in fact. All right, let's continue watching.
Hiruzen was stated by Kabuto to be the most powerful of the 5 Kage, and was impressed that Orochimaru managed to kill him.
So I do agree that Hiruzen was the strongest of the 5 Kage at this time. However, I do not necessarily agree that it's impressive that you know, Kabuto was able to kill him. Hold on, let me... Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Give me a second. Sorry. I'm trying to get this to actually, like... Okay, yeah. There we go. But it's not that impressive, only because of the fact that again, Orochimaru just does not scale to Hiruzen. So yeah, let's get back.
And Hiruzen himself was stated to be the strongest Hokage at one point as well, which
I don't necessarily disagree with. I would say he might be stronger than Beish Hashirama, but Sage Hashirama probably not.
Of course is referring to his prime, but Hiruzen makes a joke to Iruka that he actually still is the strongest.
So when it comes to like prime Hiruzen, quote unquote, my biggest problem with that line of scaling is because of the fact that when Hiruzen was brought back as an Edo Tensei, he was brought back as an old man. Why wouldn't it? Because if I remember correctly, I believe in one of the data books, or like in the series, it states that it brings you back at the peak of your power. So why wouldn't it bring him back when he was, you know, younger? So then is Old Man Hiruzen just prime Hiruzen? Who knows?
And died during the Konoha Crush arc, the village elders came together as they needed to make a quick decision on who would take the title of Hokage. The village elders then tell Jiraiya that he has been selected for the title, which is evidence that Jiraiya is considered to be one of the strongest shinobi in Konoha.
Yeah, this is consistent. Jiraiya is Kage level easily. So I 100% agree with this, that he is, like, at this point, the strongest shinobi in Konoha, probably, with Hiruzen's death. And the reason why is because, you know, he just blatantly scales above Kakashi and every other character. The only one I'd say he might not scale above is like Guy with the 8 gates. But even then, you know, this is part 1, so not everything was planned out. But again, if we're talking base Guy, yeah, he scales above base Guy. Arguably, like, as well Guy when he's using like a few of the gates. It really depends on how you want to scale Jiraiya here.
If not the strongest. Kakashi is a close second and later becomes Hokage candidate himself, but this is after unlocking the Mangekyo Sharingan and becoming more powerful. Jiraiya declines the offer to become Hokage and instead offers up Tsunade to the village elders as a candidate to which the elders agree is an appropriate replacement due to the fact she is also a Sannin and equal to Jiraiya. Here's an also...
Again, equal to Jiraiya is big contentious in my opinion. Mainly because in part 2, like, it's blatantly, like, contradicted. Because, you know, Jiraiya was able to do well against a couple paths of pain. Tsunade did even better, if I'm not mistaken. I believe she fought the Diva path, and she actually did fairly well against the Diva, whereas Jiraiya was getting kind of bodied in Sage mode by the Asura path, who was like weaker. So I don't know. Shaboot, you could argue maybe here when she wasn't like, you know, when she was like getting drunk and shit, she wasn't stronger than Jiraiya, and that she was either equal or Jiraiya was stronger. I don't care how you argue that part, but I would just say that, you know, they're not necessarily equal.
They stated that Orochimaru was a Hokage candidate at one point as well, but could not be chosen only because of his twisted mind rather than lack of physical ability. So what this means is that all 3 Sannin were Hokage candidates, which again supports that they're all relative.
That does not support that they're all relative in any capacity, and the reason why is because you can be. So does that mean that they're equal to like Naruto, who was a Hokage candidate? Are they equal to like Hokage Kakashi? No. Just because you're a Hokage candidate does not mean that you are equal to other Hokage candidates. That's like saying Orochimaru at that point was, when he was a Hokage candidate, was equal to Minato, who was also a Hokage candidate. You know? And we know Minato was like, I believe, stronger than Jiraiya, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I believe at that point he was stronger than Jiraiya. So again, that doesn't really work.
And all potentially the strongest in the village. He also referred to him as a powerful genius that only appears once every few decades. He also states that Orochimaru could take down small nations by himself, which, considering the statements I've shown previously, makes Jiraiya look that impressive.
This, I agree, Orochimaru could probably take down small nations. As we know, people like Sasori could take down, you know, entire nations as well. I believe we even see Sasuke, like, very casually beat, like, 2,000 shinobi on his own. So yeah, that's more than fine.
As well. Following the assassination of Hiruzen, Jiraiya begins his search for Tsunade. Unbeknownst to him, however, Orochimaru was also seeking out Tsunade to heal the arms that Hiruzen had sealed away with the Reaper Death. This would then cause the event in chapter known as the Three-Way Deadlock. What's interesting about this fight is that every combatant there was weakened or nerfed in some way. Tsunade had actually
A dashboard. Is everything good? Is everything good? It looks like it's having trouble. Hold on. Is everything good? My stream's still live? I'm still live from Streamlabs. Alright, looks like we're good. We're good. Okay, cool.
A castle. When Jiraiya finds this castle, he mistakes the destruction as Tsunade's, implying Tsunade could destroy that castle.
Which is fair, right?
Orochimaru during the Konoha Crush arc also summoned multiple giant snakes that were terrorizing Konoha, which was only stopped when Jiraiya summoned his own massive toad to pin them down. During the Three-Way Deadlock, Jiraiya once again stopped these snakes by utilizing his Dark Swamp Jutsu, which completely ensnared the summoned snakes. Jiraiya then says that the medicine was still affecting him, and this swamp was puny and didn't even sink the snakes completely, implying it could have if he used it at full power. After this...
So... okay, I guess that's an argument. My only problem... Welcome back, Dot. My only problem with that is, like, okay, he defeated the snake. So what? If he was stronger, he would have defeated the snake more? I'm not quite sure what that has to do with scaling Jiraiya. Now, the weakened state one is a good way to scale him, but again... I don't know.
Jiraiya and Orochimaru get into a scuffle where Jiraiya uses his Lion Mane Jutsu to pierce Orochimaru's foot. The databook also specifically takes note of the Lion Mane's ability to pierce Orochimaru. This is impressive because not even a head-on punch from Tsunade or Four Tails Naruto was able to pierce Orochimaru like this. Okay, so he is using part 2 scaling. So, okay, let's talk about this. Okay, because there's a very good reason why. A blunt force trauma attack from Tsunade could not pierce Orochimaru the same way a piercing attack from Jiraiya could. Of course it couldn't. It's a piercing attack. Of course it's gonna, like, you know, pierce into his foot. Whereas a punch is not going to, like, you know, pierce you the same way. That's not really an argument. That's just how physics works. Real quick, Dot, since you're in chat, how's the volume, by the way? How's the volume balancing between the music and my voice and the video? But while he's typing, of course
It's a piercing attack. I don't understand his argument there. It's literally just a piercing attack. Okay.
After this, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru all pull out their strongest summons. Tsunade summons Katsuyu, Jiraiya summons Gamabunta, and Orochimaru summons Manda.
But I thought Jiraiya couldn't summon Gamabunta. He already tried, didn't he? That would just mean the poison is slowly like the drug is slowly like getting out of his system. But again, Jiraiya definitely was weakened here, but you know, it's weird. Yeah.
When Manda is summoned, he immediately threatens to eat Orochimaru, but Kabuto, who's extremely fearful of Manda, attempts to calm him down. Kabuto was also worried about Manda finding out that Orochimaru was not able to use his jutsu, and claims that summoning him at all was extremely risky.
So, is he trying to scale Manda above Orochimaru here? I don't think Manda scales to Orochimaru. I think Manda's below Orochimaru. Because Orochimaru does not seem scared at all against, like, Orochimaru just doesn't seem scared at all of Manda. Why would Orochimaru fear him? And I would just also say Kabuto might be misinformed about how strong Orochimaru currently is. Because again, Orochimaru, even without his arms, is still very strong. So...
This implies that Manda is a legitimate threat to No Arms Orochimaru.
And if you want to say that, you know, he could beat No Arms Orochimaru, that's fine. I don't really care about that, you know? Reptoversal? Yeah. Yeah, Orochimaru's only Reptoversal. Unfortunate. You know, he doesn't even scale to, like, you know, Mammalversal. It's very funny. No. Let me stop. Let me continue. We're only 6 minutes in, and we've been streaming for like 27 minutes. Jesus Christ.
Shows no signs of fear and is immediately ready to take Manda down, stating he would turn Manda into a snakeskin wallet.
So, okay. So, Gamabunta does not scale to Manda. And I will definitely say Manda is stronger than Gamabunta and stronger than Katsuya, because he was able to take on both of them at the same time. And Gamabunta and Katsuya seem to be on the losing side of that battle. And it wasn't until Tsunade intervened and, you know, pinned down Manda that they actually won the fight. So Manda's just like straight up stronger than Gamabunta. You could argue like Gamabunta and Katsuya are in the same tier, but he's stronger to take them both on at the same time. So, again,
Manda seemingly gets the upper hand over Gamabunta, knocking his weapon away and strangling Katsuyu. But Katsuyu and Gamabunta both manage to evade Manda's attacks.
Oh,
in the database.
Thank you, Dot, for the subscription. I don't know why I didn't hear it. Why didn't it go off? Why did the audio not go off? Hold on. Why did the audio not go off? Why is there no audio? Oh, it's because the audio was muted. Hold on, let's test it now. So we're gonna quickly test it. So give me just 1 second. No, you're fine. Okay, yeah, now the audio's playing properly. Okay, there we go. Audio's playing properly now. So let's continue. So, yeah, again, Gamabunta probably is relative to Manda, but I would say Manda's definitely still stronger.
But Katsuyu, Manda, and Gamabunta are all directly stated to be equal in strength, which again...
Again, I disagree because the series, it shows Manda able to take on both of them at the same time. So I would just say Manda's stronger than them individually. So again, guidebooks are... Turn the alert sound down a bit? I don't know if I can. I genuinely don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. Let me see. I don't think I can. Yeah, I don't think I can. I'd have to look into it how to do that in Streamlabs, but right now I can't. Yeah, well, all the summoning should be relative, including the summonings. Yeah. I never said they weren't relative. They are definitely relative, but I think Manda's stronger. But they're not equals. I would just say the guidebooks are wrong here. Because, like, feats... I would say feats in the... It's maybe under alert box settings. I'll check it out later. But, again, as blatantly shown in the manga... And, in the manga... what is it? Manda just objectively scales above. He takes them both on at the same time, so yeah.
displays relativity amongst the Sannin. It is actually Tsunade who defeats Manda by using her regeneration seal and knocking Gamabunta's sword through Manda's mouth, pinning him. Before Manda is desummoned, he threatens Orochimaru once again. Soon after this, Naruto defeats Kabuto with a base Rasengan. This is impressive because Jiraiya directly states that Kabuto is around Kakashi's caliber as a shinobi, and seeing as Jiraiya also has the Rasengan, this means he would have been able to do that as well.
Yeah, no shit. That's like very no shit, you know? Naruto at this point does not scale to Kakashi. Maybe his AP does. You could argue this Naruto might scale to a previous form of Kakashi in Land of Waves, but but then you could argue Kakashi just gets stronger, you know? But because he fights stronger people, he fights like Kisame and Itachi. I'm getting messages now. Why am I getting messages while I'm trying to stream? Shut the fuck up, phone. I'm trying to stream. But yeah, and also Naruto gets beaten here actually. For those who don't know, Kabuto in this at this time was able to, you know, hit Naruto while he was hitting him, and was able to incapacitate Naruto. Whereas Kabuto was still able to stand up, even though he was very heavily damaged because he started regenerating with a ninjutsu. So again, even then, I don't think that Naruto, like his attack, would necessarily. It could definitely beat Kakashi if he hits, but again, eh.
Seeing as Orochimaru was now heavily outnumbered and without the capability to use jutsu, he flees from the battlefield. Jiraiya also says after summoning Gamabunta that he is about out of chakra. This is not unimpressive though, as Gamabunta requires a ton of chakra in order to summon him to begin with. Jiraiya even remarks that Gamabunta is even too much for himself after Naruto manages to summon him in the ravine.
Okay, that's a weird statement that even he can't. I'd imagine it's what he's talking about is that even he can't like control Gamabunta. You know, but if you want to say Gamabunta is stronger than Jiraiya, that's fine, I guess.
This of course is not true, as Jiraiya was heavily nerfed due to being drugged and was still able to summon him during the three-way deadlock. Gamabunta himself is an extremely powerful foe, especially for part 1. When Jiraiya summons him, he is able to use a fire-style combo attack with Gamabunta's oil called Gamayu Indan or Toad Flames Bomb. This attack generates a genuinely massive fire style that absolutely dwarfs Gamabunta in size.
Now that's definitely a fucking big fireball. And as I stated at the beginning of the stream, I've watched this video before. I watched it with my friend Toxic.
Scaling this fire style is sort of difficult for a few reasons, because these rock formations visible on panel don't have a confirmed size, and they don't really look like mountains.
Yeah, no shit, those don't look like mountains. That's really funny. They's like, those don't look like mountains. Yeah, no they don't. No shit.
Now, these earth formations in the background do actually look pretty similar to
Actually, real quick, let me just say something real quick. I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. I'm not shitting on Noodles. I'm not hating on him. He's a good power scaler in my opinion. I'm just, you know, trying to like, you know, better inform people about like what characters are able to do, what is happening here. Why is my hold on, give me 1 second, guys. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Hold on. Let me see if I can. There we go. I fixed it. I was wondering why it wasn't, you know, why it looked a little weird. There we go. I fixed it. All right, we fixed it, boys. All right, let's get back to the actual video. But yeah, again, no, they're not mountains. And so yeah.
Kishimoto likes to draw mountains, but still a bit unclear. Now, the only object on panel that can be definitively used for scale is Gamabunta himself, who has a confirmed height in both the manga and databooks, but there's still a major issue. Gamabunta's size is actually extremely inconsistent. In the first databook under Gamabunta's entry, it says that Gamabunta is as big as a mountain, which, if you look at the Fireball page, doesn't actually seem that unreasonable if you think those earth formations in the backgrounds are actually mountains, which I believe they are because during the Shukaku fight, we can actually clearly see the mountains once again, and they look about the same. I also have a calc that scales Shukaku size compared to Gaara, and he comes out over 400 meters tall, which is actually mountain size.
Yeah, that's fine. Them being as big as a mountain is fine. The only argument I could see you using is that in part 2, Gamabunta's size, you know, he shrinks in part 2, but I would just argue that, you know, Toads might as they grow older, and they get their peak size, they might shrink. As we see, Gamakichi, like, he grows like at a shocking rate.
This, in combination with the fact that Ninetales is said to be able to beat down mountains with his tails on the first episode of Naruto, and Gamabunta is comparable in size to him, really shows the consistency that early on, Gamabunta was actually comparable to mountains.
Yeah, so yeah, I would just say you could argue he just got smaller from age.
To support this even further, during the Shikaku fight, their sheer movement was stated and shown to be changing the terrain itself. Now, the inconsistent part comes in during part 2. In the third data book, Gamabunta is said to be 17 meters tall, and he clearly is not mountain size at all.
Again, I would just say the fourth data book is wrong in this case, potentially, because there's more evidence to prove that he's bigger.
His fight against Pain. Gamabunta is wildly smaller comparatively to his fight with Shikaku. A good piece of evidence.
Yeah, again, as I keep stating, you could just argue he got smaller.
To show their different sizes is by how much Shikaku and Gamabunta tower over the trees. An average oak tree can range between 15 and 21 meters tall, but we know specifically that the trees in Naruto are actually much larger than the trees in real life, if you look at the Forest of Death, for example. So, this is actually downplay, but yeah, Gamabunta is supposedly only 17 meters tall. He shouldn't be any taller than the trees that he's towering over, and he definitely should not be changing the terrain itself with his sheer movement. This to me is a pretty major error on Kishimoto's part, and I'm not for sure why he always draws the Biju and Gamabunta so inconsistently in size, but for the sake of this being part 1 and Gamabunta consistently being portrayed as hundreds of meters tall in part 1, I am going to measure the Fire Style Toad Flame Bomb based on the 400 meter number rather than the 17 meters data book.
Yeah, that's completely fine, because, you know, I would just argue that, again, as I said before, Gamabunta gets smaller as he ages. You know, this consistency as we see Gamakichi, like he changes size as he ages, as he gets older. So I would not say that it's like inconsistent.
Statement simply because Gamabunta clearly was meant to be that big back then, but was retconned to a smaller size later. The calc I have measures how much oil Jiraiya managed to vaporize in order to create a toad flame that large, and the amount of energy actually comes out to small country level, which is honestly...
Okay, so this is the best part. Okay, he says small country in the video, but then immediately here says island level. How the fuck do you get that wrong? How do you flub that hard? You know? Now, I did flub in one of my videos. In the power scaling, in the beginner's guide to Dragon Ball power scaling, I said that destroying an infinite 3D universe would be Universal Plus. It's not. That's a 4D feat. That'd be a 4D feat behind Universal. But that's not big of the flub as going from country level to fucking island level. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. That's hilarious.
Probably the best destruction feat in all of part 1. The next thing I want to talk about in regards to Gamabunta is his fight with the One Tails. Initially, Gamabunta did not want to fight Shikaku at all because of how powerful he was, which actually scales him above the likes of Manda and Kotsuyu, but after
Not necessarily. I mean, you might be able to make a case that he scales above Manda, which I wouldn't be against. But at the exact same time, when it comes to Manda being stronger, you could just argue they're in like the same ballpark. So yeah, you could argue it. I'm fine with that.
Informed the Chief Toad that Shikaku had threatened him, Gamabunta became infuriated and ready to fight. During this fight,
welcome back, Dot. Everyone, Dot's back.
Gamabunta manages to evade multiple attacks and even tanks a direct air bullet from him as well. Although Gamabunta does directly admit that he cannot get hit too many more times or else even he would be beaten.
So that would just mean that he doesn't necessarily scale to Shikaku. He's able to dodge, but his durability is like too weak for him to actually sustain multiple attacks from Shikaku, you know? I mean, you could argue like he can kind of tank it with like a good bit of damage done. But again, that just means he can't tank Shikaku's attacks, and that Shikaku's just stronger than him.
With his sword, Gamabunta barely manages to cut through the Sand Spirit's arm, which is highly impressive considering how durable the Biju actually are.
And Shikaku's one of the most durable Biju, so this is actually a decently impressive feat.
This may even make Gamabunta's sword multi-continental due to the Biju being able to withstand their own Biju bombs. All the calcs will be in the description for this, so if you guys want to go
we'll check out those calcs after the video.
Make sure to peep the description for any calcs that'll be related to this video. So yeah, because Jiraiya can summon Gamabunta...
Though my only problem with scaling Biju's attacks in their own Biju bombs is a Biju bomb is meant to condense their AP, their chakra into like an attack, and we know using like jutsu like that increases your AP. So their basic attacks scaling to their Biju bombs, then why would they use Biju bombs? You know, I would just say that their Biju bombs are stronger than their basic attacks, but their durability should be enough that they can like kind of tank their own Biju bombs somewhat.
Even while weakened severely and has shown relatively...
Okay, I really want to quick talk about why Jiraiya doesn't necessarily scale to this feat. And the reason I don't think he necessarily scales to this feat is because, as we know, oil is a superconductor of fire. So you could argue that Gamabunta put in more effort in that attack than Jiraiya did. You know, because like if you even have like a small spark of flame to oil, the oil is going to like combust. The entire oil is going to combust. Nah, bro, I punch as hard as my strongest kick consistently. Do you, Dot? That's very impressive. I gotta give you credit for that. Everyone, let's give Dot some credit for that. He punches as hard as his strongest kick. Like if he fucking winds up and runs at someone and does a flying fucking kick, he scales with that. That's very impressive, Dot. Nah, I'm giving Dot shit right now. But yeah, again, I would just argue that the Biju bombs scale above them, because if they don't, then why the fuck are they using Biju bombs in general?
Tsunade and Orochimaru at multiple points, and because he was selected as a candidate for Hokage, allows for Jiraiya to be considered in the highest echelon of power during Part 1.
I actually do agree with that Jiraiya in Part 1 is in the highest echelon of power. That's for a couple reasons. One, we don't know like who else is out there. He was one of like the most like strongest known characters we had at that time. So I would 100% agree with that actually. That is 100%. That's the Biju bomb argument? Yeah, I know, Dot. I know that's the Biju bomb argument. The Biju bomb argument's dumb.
Easily in the top 5 strongest, only rivaled by the other Sannin and Hiruzen and Itachi.
It's like saying that Goku scales to moon level because his Kamehameha is able to destroy a moon. You know?
In the second data book on page 109, the Sannin are directly said to be the strongest ninja as well to support this.
Okay, again, this is very contentious as... Again, Hiruzen's a ninja. And Hiruzen blatantly scales above Orochimaru. Who, if you want to argue that Jiraiya is like equal to Orochimaru, then that means Hiruzen should scale above Jiraiya as well. So again... This is very contentious. Very, very much. So again,
further,
I would just say the guidebooks are wrong here.
Itachi, after the three-way deadlock, the final encounter we see Jiraiya have during the events of Part 1 is his battle against Itachi and Kasame. This fight is heavily talked and debated about in Naruto due to a few infamous statements from Kasame and Itachi, where Jiraiya is basically stated by Kasame to be in a different league than himself.
Okay, this is actually just objectively wrong. This is blatantly wrong. Also, who is not ninja, he's the Hokage. Dot, you know. I know you're trolling, Dot. But to explain against that argument real quick, the Hokage is still a ninja. Okay? Still a ninja. But let's quickly look at this statement. Now, Noodle's argument is that, oh yeah, they're saying Jiraiya's in a different league. Let's read this. Even if you might be able to take him on, I'm not sure about me. He's in a different league. Yeah, we face off against him, might end up killing each other, even if he's more blah blah. But what's very, very interesting, if you go to the next panel, he says, it's great we finally found him at the ramen shop, but his babysitter was one of the 3 legendary shinobis of Konoha. This means Kisame here was not talking about Jiraiya. He was talking about Naruto. He was referring to Naruto, probably specifically the Kyuubi, but taken at face value, this actually means Part 1 Naruto scales to Kisame and Itachi, if you want to take that as face value. That is the funniest shit I've ever seen. And it's very funny, because, again, taking this face value, he's talking about Naruto here. He's not talking about Jiraiya. Now specifically, he's probably talking about the Kurama. That is the most consistent that he's talking about Kurama. That he's like, oh yeah, you probably couldn't take on Kurama, Itachi. You know, because Kurama's like the strongest of the Biju. But no, this doesn't work because he's not talking about Jiraiya. It's really funny. Yeah, Dot. He's literally Kisame here is talking about Naruto, or at least Kurama. So I just find this hilarious. If you want to take this at face value, you might be able to argue it. I don't, because there's too many counter arguments against it, you know. But again, it's possible.
And he was not so sure he could take him. He does, however, state in this that he believes Itachi may be able to handle him.
Again, when they're referring to him, they're referring to Naruto. They're referring to the Nine Tails, probably. You know? Because he literally says, it was finally good finding him at the ramen shop, but his babysitter was one of the 3 great shinobi of Konoha legend. So, when they're talking about the babysitter, that means they're talking about Jiraiya. So, this does not necessarily scale them to above Jiraiya. You know, or this doesn't necessarily scale Jiraiya above them. Naruto's him. Base scale? Yeah, completely base scale. But that's if you want to, like, super wank Naruto and say, like, yeah, if you want to, like, super, like, wank Naruto at this point, say, like, oh, yeah, you know, based on this statement, he scales to, you know, Jiraiya and Kisame. Which he doesn't, again. And real quick, I also want to touch on something before we continue the video. Kisame also states, with him as our enemy, even the titles of Konoha's Uchiha clan and 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist pale in comparison. He's not necessarily talking about strength comparison. He's talking about their titles. Like how, like, oh yeah, his title's like bigger than ours, so he might be stronger than us. You know? So again, I don't know if that's necessarily like that he scaled above.
Itachi then immediately says after this that if he and Jiraiya fought, they would either grievously wound each other or they would kill each other. Kisame then remarks that the titles of the Uchiha clan and the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist pale in comparison to the title of Sani.
Yeah, again, as I stated earlier, they were talking about Naruto. Like, a lot of people use this scan to try to put Jiraiya above Kisame at this point. He's not. He's just not.
So, obviously, if we just take these statements at
if you take the statements at face value, Naruto scales above both Kisame, and that he probably end up killing himself with alongside Itachi.
In a vacuum, Jiraiya would be equal or stronger than Itachi and Kisame. I don't think that Jiraiya being stronger than Kisame is by any means outlandish.
I don't actually necessarily think him being stronger than Part 1 Kisame is outlandish either, as we see Kisame, like, a suppressed Kisame fighting relatively equally with Asuma, and Asuma stayed to be like one of the strongest, like, should be equal to Kakashi, or at least relative to him.
At least in regards to Part 1, because many people make the mistake of comparing Part 1 Kisame to Part 2 Kisame, despite the fact that there was a multi-year gap when we see Kisame here, and when we see him fight the likes of Guy and Killer Bee.
Yeah,
later.
you could just argue Kisame got stronger, as the Akatsuki are meant to, like, track down Biju, and they're also doing missions to, like, earn money as well, so you could just argue Kisame got stronger, and that's perfectly fine. I actually would agree with that. Why is Kisame inside Majin Buu? Shut the fuck up. But no, that little scene there was when he was in the toad mouth. I'm sure you remember that. But yeah, so yeah.
There's plenty of room for Kisame to have gotten stronger through that time period, so I don't think Jiraiya would suddenly begin scaling to Kisame and Killer Bee or something like that. To support this even further, Kakashi is actually able to match Kasame's water style with the same exact attack.
Yeah, again, I would both Kakashi and Asuma scale to a suppressed Kisame, as I believe Itachi told Kisame, hey, hold back against these guys. Don't go all out.
Also pinned by the tip of Kasame's blade during this fight, but Asuma was shown to be able to react as well as Kakashi. Asuma in the databook is a Jonin said to be near Kakashi's level of strength, and Itachi directly tells Kasame that if he fights Kakashi head-on, even he won't get away scot-free.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine to say that. You know, again, remember it looked like Booze? Yeah, it was the toad mouth jutsu Jiraiya used. It's really fucking kind of funky. But yeah, I agree with this. I believe that in Part 1 that Akatsuki were weaker than in Part 2, and you could just argue they got stronger. That's more than fine to say. And I also agree that here that Kakashi, I almost said Kikashi. Kakashi should be able to do some damage to Kisame.
Basically means Kasame in part 1 is likely around part 1 Kakashi's level of strength
Yeah.
as well. Another thing that is worth considering, however, is Itachi is constantly telling Kasame to hold back his power and is trying to de-escalate the confrontation with Konoha's elite Jonin. Itachi specifically tells Kurenai and Asuma that he does not want to kill them, and then Asuma remarks that this is a very strange comment considering Itachi was willing to commit parricide on his own clan.
Yeah, I would just argue this is Itachi not wanting to kill them because Itachi got weaker because he was sicker. No, I would argue Itachi should be stronger than himself in part 1 because he's training. And while yes, you could argue he is getting sicker. Part 1, Naruto boxing up to Susanoo for real? Yeah, probably. Part 1, Naruto just boxes up to Susanoo, easily pieces through it. No, let me stop. Yeah, again, they get stronger. You could argue for Itachi he might have gotten weaker because his illness progressed, or at least canceled out the strength growth he had. So yeah.
He also directly tells Kasame that they did not come here to start a war, and he wanted to leave without a fight. But after being forced into it, Itachi still tells Kasame to not overdo it. A scuffle between Kakashi and Itachi ensues, and Kakashi directly says that Itachi had yet to reveal his true power, which once again reinforces that Itachi was holding back. Kakashi soon after this gets put into the Tsukiyomi by Itachi and endures 3 days and 3 nights worth of torture to his psyche, all of which happens in the span of a moment in the real world. It is here that Kakashi says Itachi could have killed him and he didn't know why he didn't.
Yeah, this is fair. This is consistent, you know. Itachi scales massively above Kakashi at this point and could easily have, like, murdered him.
Once again, showing that Itachi did not want to kill any of the...
What's actually crazy is I'm just thinking about this. You could use this kind of argumentation for, like, them getting stronger. Since they're a tag team and they're going on the same missions, you could argue this would also put Itachi in part 2 above Kisame, and that he would scale to all of Kisame's feats.
Kisame was seemingly frustrated at multiple points from Itachi's unwillingness to engage. Soon after this, in Jiraiya's encounter with Itachi, Jiraiya uses his Toad Belly Jutsu, where he summons a fire-resistant and inescapable mountain toad that swallows everyone into its stomach. Both Jiraiya and the first data book state that nothing can escape from this toad mouth jutsu. Kasame attacks Jiraiya, but Jiraiya summons Gamma, the toad that bodied Ebisu.
So, I don't know why he was bringing up that nothing could escape it, because that's a blatant no-limit fallacy. I don't know why he's bringing that up. Who knows?
And is able to block Kasame's Samehara blade, the same blade that just the tip was capable of pinning Asuma earlier. This means that the Gamma Toad that Jiraiya summons is actually relative to Kasame in physicality and above Asuma.
That's kind of a weird argument. I don't have any contentions with it because I guess it makes sense. That's just weirdly scaling this random toad to, like, be above Kakashi and Asuma. But I guess that's fine. What the fuck? I guess that's fine.
Gamma is also stated in the databook to be an extension of Jiraiya's limbs in combat, which is also impressive. Gamma should be around Kakashi's level based on this. After this, Itachi uses his Amaterasu to burn through the mountain toad's belly to escape. Kasame questions Itachi and asks why they're running away considering Itachi's power. Itachi then says that there is no reason to be impatient and he needs to rest due to using his Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, specifically the Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu. Considering Itachi's behavior in the context of Itachi's character, I don't actually think Jiraiya scales to Itachi due to the fact he is actually working as a double agent for Konoha.
Yeah, okay, good noodles. Yeah, this is 100% correct. I think, I 100% do not believe that Itachi would scale to Jiraiya in any real context here. I think he scales far above him.
It makes sense why Itachi was intentionally holding back and not trying to kill any of the Jonin and was constantly trying to retreat. Itachi did not want to harm Konoha's ninja, and it would not make sense for him to harm Jiraiya either. Itachi spent the entirety of his time in Konoha trying to convince Kasame to retreat and run, and also held back in the exchanges such as with Kakashi. He also perpetually kept telling Kasame to hold back his power as well. So, to me it seems as though the only reason Itachi said these things about Jiraiya was so he could convince Kasame to run away. Another reason I believe Itachi is stronger than Jiraiya, and this statement is a lie from Itachi, is that both Sasuke and Orochimaru himself directly state that Itachi was stronger than him. Orochimaru, as we know at this point, is equal to Jiraiya.
I would just argue that Orochimaru, without his arms, might be equal to Jiraiya. He might even be stronger. We don't know. Because in part 2, armless Orochimaru, like, without being able to use jutsu in his arms, was able to fight and defeat, or at least fight and do extremely well against Four Tails Naruto. That same Four Tails Naruto, basically, like a younger Four Tails Naruto, who should be weaker, one-shotted Jiraiya and nearly killed him. So I would just argue that Orochimaru is, like, stronger than Jiraiya.
So again, I think it's more than likely that Itachi is actually stronger than Orochimaru due to having multiple statements, reliable sources.
I believe in the anime he even, like, loaded Orochimaru when he was part of the Akatsuki.
Orochimaru himself and Sasuke versus Kasame, who is basing his claims off of Jiraiya's title and reputation as a Sannin, and also states later when fleeing that he thinks Itachi could win. And Itachi, who was holding back trying to avoid confrontation, likely lying to convince Kasame. So, yeah, I do think Jiraiya showed some really impressive stuff during this fight, specifically his Toad Belly Jutsu, which he states is even fire resistant, but of course not fire resistant enough to stop the Amaterasu. That brings an end to the part 1 scaling, and now we're going to be entering into part 2.
Okay, so he's entering the part 2 scaling now. I bet you he's going to... I've seen the video. It's been a while, but I believe he's going to bring up, like, some pain scaling. It's going to be fun.
Where we find out some key details during the pain arc for Jiraiya. Jiraiya was spying on the Akatsuki for multiple years now and has managed to get information regarding their leader, Pain. Jiraiya briefly returns to the Leaf Village and talks to
By the way,
Shirani
this
about
is
his...
a very impressive intel gathering feat, as there isn't much known about Pain. Pain is, like, very secretive about his existence. So the fact that Jiraiya was able to gather information on him at all is actually fairly impressive for intel gathering.
Plan to infiltrate the Rain Village and confront their leader, Pain. Tsunade is deathly afraid of this mission for Jiraiya, but nonetheless allows him to go. Jiraiya does manage to infiltrate the Rain Village and seemingly blends in with all of the citizens and ninja there, but is actually detected by Pain himself using their Rainfall Jutsu. Jiraiya uses his Toad Shop Jutsu, which appears as a normal shop at first glance, but once 2 Rain Ninja enter it, it swallows them whole and sends them to another dimension. It is here that Jiraiya interrogates the 2 shinobi, making threats such as them turning into toads, and even barbarically tortures them with a feather.
Barbarically tortures them with a feather. These shinobi are ass. The fact that they're able to give up information through simply being tickled is funny as hell.
After Jiraiya gets the info he is looking for, he proceeds forward. Unfortunately for Jiraiya, not long after, he is confronted by Konan, who he bodies in one shot, and the 3 Paths of Pain, which he thinks is Nagato. Jiraiya gives a legendary criticism to Pain's philosophy and begins his battle. Jiraiya instantly summons 2 of the legendary Toad Sages, Ma and Pa, and Jiraiya, unlike Minato and Naruto, summons these toads so they can gather nature energy on his shoulders whilst he battles. It takes a bit of evading from Jiraiya to escape, and he is forced to summon the Ungraceful Toad that begins battling and trading with the Pain Dog summon. Jiraiya also fights the Bird summons and the Chameleon as well, and even shows off this weird barrier jutsu that can apparently sense invisible creatures. Once Ma and Pa finish gathering Sage energy, Jiraiya immediately blitzes and bodies a Path of Pain that rushes him. Interestingly enough, the Sage Mode kick that Jiraiya
Here, let's continue watching video.
Was extremely similar to the kick that Naruto threw at Pain, although that one did get blocked, so it potentially means that Jiraiya is even faster than Sage Mode Naruto.
Okay, that's just no, he's not. And here's why Jiraiya is not fast as Sage Mode Naruto. Jiraiya got his shit rocked by the Asura Path in Sage Mode. Like, he got his arm ripped off by the Asura Path. And he was fighting... What people don't actually realize is he was fighting the Asura Path one-on-one, by the way. And, like, he got his arm ripped off. So, and Naruto, in the manga, speed blitzed the Asura Path. He completely speed blitzed the Asura Path. So, no. He is not fast in Sage Mode Naruto. Hell, you could even argue base Naruto might be faster than Sage Jiraiya. Because he was... base Naruto was able to somewhat keep up with the Diva Path.
I don't agree with this argument, however, because Pain could have been weakened during that kick, and it was also Tendo that managed to block it, so potentially that's the strongest path of Pain. To be real with you guys, though, Jiraiya in this fight, for the most part, kind of just gets his jutsu countered multiple times, partially due to
Actually,
the fact
funny thing, I actually forget if he mentions this or not, but one of the path of Pain he actually kicked ends up, Sage Mode Naruto is fucking cracked. On God, yeah. You're 100% right, Dot. But Naruto, in this moment, was able to catch... Not Naruto, the human path, I believe it was able to catch Jiraiya's Sage Mode punch fairly effortlessly. Which I find here. I might actually have the picture. Hold on. I might have the picture in, like, one of my scans. Hold on, let me find it real quick. Let me see if I have it. Is it in paint scaling? Sorry, I'm trying to find it right now. If I don't find it, I can just quickly go to the chapter and screenshot it. Actually, it might be in the Naruto. Hold on, let me go on my scan server real quick and see if I can find it. Because Tendo, 5 of the paths. No. So I'm just looking real quick to see if I can find it. Because it's actually a really impressive feat for, here it is. Here it is. I found it. Let me quickly save this into, sure, this is fine. Alright, let me quickly bring it up. Let me bring this up. Okay, sources, media file. No, that wouldn't work, I don't think. Image, here we go. Image, use new source. Manga panels. Add source. So we're going to quickly put you right here, and we're going to bring you up. I just gotta find the damn thing. Right here. Oh god, that's like really big. Okay, let's make you a little smaller. So in this panel, let me just size the panel a little better. In this panel, we see that Jiraiya attacks the Diva Path, not Diva Path, the human path, I believe that is. And his punch, let me make it a little bigger, he catches it without effort. Like, he literally just, like, catches it. He says, what? He blocked my Sage Mode attack without looking? But the fact that he was able to, like, catch it in general is really impressive. That just means this, this path scales to Sage Mode Jiraiya. Which is really crazy to think about. That's really crazy to think about. But anyways, yeah. So, it's really crazy.
Pain and Conan already know his weaknesses, such as his oil weakness that they washed away, and this is stated by Jiraiya himself. Jiraiya also directly admits that taking on 3 of them at once was too much for him, and that even in Sage Mode, he would be inevitably killed by them. The most
so Jiraiya scales to 3 of the weaker paths of Pain. Because we know that, like, Pain's, like, the Naraka path have, like, really shit durability, as he got, like, one-shotted by Konohamaru. Nah, Konohamaru's like Biju level, don't you know? Let me stop. But no, he got fucking shat on by the other paths.
Comes from this fight happens when Jiraiya tells Ma and Pa to use Toad's song, which actually manages to capture 3 of the paths of Pain. This is a pretty insane feat in and of itself, but if you look at the 4th data book statement for this Genjutsu, it is said that this jutsu is said to be the most powerful
Genjutsu. So, him saying that this jutsu is the most powerful Genjutsu, I am fine with that, and I'll explain why. You could potentially use this data book statement to say that it's stronger than the Infinite Tsukiyomi, which is fine. As there's a weird argument I thought up for it. You could argue since Naruto would not have been able to survive this Genjutsu, and it would have taken Sasuke to. It would have taken Sasuke to be able to, like with his Rinnegan, to be able to be not captured by it, and that this... I literally just forgot my train of thought. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. I just forgot my train of thought. That sucks. But anyways, regardless, you could argue that this is the strongest Genjutsu. There's also, like, I believe data book statements for, like, the Tsukiyomi being the strongest Genjutsu, and so is Kodo Matsukami. But again, I'm fine with it.
and can even warp space, making it around 8th gate guy level. I'm just joking. I'm not
okay,
so
thank
serious.
God.
But
yeah, that is a funny joke, but that's crazy.
seriously, the fact of the matter is that Genjutsu can capture Rinnegan users and is said to be the most powerful Genjutsu in the data book, which is just insane. Although Itachi Tsukiyomi and the Kodo Matsukami are also stated to be the most powerful as well, so take the statement with a grain of salt. Soon after Jiraiya captures these paths of pain, he proceeds to stab and kill them. Unfortunately for Jiraiya, the Pareto path is soon after sneak attacks him and blows off his arm. After this, the 6 paths of pain join together, all their dead ones revived and ready to eliminate Jiraiya. In a last-ditch effort to stay alive, Jiraiya activates some kind of barrier jutsu and manages to capture yet again another path of pain and kill it. This would be the last time Jiraiya manages to defeat any of the paths of pain, and although still majorly impressive, Pain was clearly shown to be superior throughout the fight, although somewhat relative. Pain finishes Jiraiya off and sends him to the bottom of the ocean, and even makes a final comment about Jiraiya that had he had known their secret, he could have beaten them. A lot of people have many different interpretations about the statement, but
I will give my interpretation real quick of this statement. I just think that if he knew Pain's secret, he probably could have found Nagato and either killed Nagato before the Pains could get to him, or he could have maybe tried to convince Nagato. But I just think that's Pain kind of saying that, yeah, if he knew our secret, he would have been able to find Nagato. Yeah.
Intelligent Jiraiya is, it's not at all surprising to me that he would find a way to beat them, especially considering he already managed to kill 4 paths of pain anyway.
Though also you could argue the secret might have been like that they all share the Rinnegan through Nagato, so you could argue he might have just been able to put Nagato under a Genjutsu again. So yeah.
This means Jiraiya can maybe find a way to trap them all in the Toad Song Genjutsu. This is the last bit of scaling for Jiraiya, but in the Boruto anime, there is actually a time travel arc where Jiraiya fights on par with Urashiki, who is an Otsutsuki tier shinobi, stated in a guidebook to be the strongest of their clan. This is pretty insane in and of itself, and the fact that Urashiki was swapping hands with adult Rinnegan Sasuke as well means that Jiraiya basically would be the top tier in Shippuden and would likely be multiversal. This, along with the fact that Hinata actually states that Jiraiya might have been stronger than both Sasuke and Naruto, adds support to this idea as well. I'm just kidding. This arc is actually a pretty big meme in the community.
Okay, that is very funny, and I'm very glad that he actually doesn't believe that. But yeah, no.
Boy, if you don't. But from what I know about Urashiki, who is actually weakened during this fight, Sasuke was so weakened that the only chakra he had during this fight was the chakra that Part 1 Sakura gave to him. So, yeah, Sasuke and Urashiki had already been battling long before Jiraiya showed up, so he wasn't actually fighting full power Urashiki. But regardless, this entire, scene is just insane, and it makes me think that, they just didn't consider anything that had happened in Shippuden, but regardless, he's weakened. He doesn't actually scale. But yeah, a few other things I forgot to mention is a statement from Tsunade in the anime where she states that if Jiraiya can't beat Pain, then nobody else can, which means that neither she nor Kakashi could have beaten Pain as well, and means that Jiraiya is at least equal to those two characters. Jiraiya is also very proficient in sealing jutsu and shows his intellect multiple times throughout the series with this, and was a multiple-time Hokage candidate whose reputation was feared throughout the entirety of the shinobi world. Jiraiya is not the strongest character in Part 2 by any means, but he still deserves your respect. Anyways, guys, that will do it.
So that's the end of the video. I do agree with this. I think Jiraiya is underrated, but I also don't think he's like the same way. Oh, that's weird. So I'm just looking at my Streamlabs, and for some reason there's legit just like a black thing. That could just be where the oh shit. Where the thing is. That's weird. But anyways, we'll just ignore that for now. We will ignore that. But yeah, well, let's get to the next video. So the next video, I believe this is the next video. It is, I believe, Chuck's video. Yeah, it was Chuck's video of could Super Saiyan 4 Goku defeat Frieza. I have not watched this video. I've heard about it. I actually think I've actually watched a little bit of it, but I haven't watched the full thing. So we're going to be reacting to this as well. And I am going to be ripping into Chuck here. Again, I have nothing against the man, but I think his scaling here in this video is kind of ass from what I've heard. So yeah.
So, I've been a big fan of Dragon Ball What If battles for several years, and one of the ones that recently caught my attention was Hyorin Jutsu's Golden Frieza vs GT
Which
Goku one. Which
I have watched that actually. It is really good. It's really good animation.
Grim was very enjoyable to say the least, and it got me thinking. If we were to have these two duke it out, according to statements and feats, who would truly be able to win?
I believe Golden Frieza should win. I'm not 100% sure as I don't really scale GT, but I believe Golden Frieza should win this fight. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Goddamn.
For this battle, we will be going over Goku from the Dragon Ball GT anime series.
Also, real quick, I do want to say, for those who are in like the chat and who are watching the video, if you have any videos you want me to watch and react to and, like, you know, talk about the power scaling, feel free to let me know.
And Frieza from the Dragon Ball Z Revival of Frieza movie. And I want to hammer this in because we will only cover Dragon Ball Super Golden Frieza at the end of the video, given that the Dragon Ball Z movies and the Dragon Ball Super series have very different scaling, as I'll get into later.
Oh yeah, they have like much different scaling than in the anime. Very much different. They seem a lot stronger in the anime.
Right, so does the vastly powered up Goku have any chance against the Golden Emperor, who slapped around Goku with a divine Super Saiyan form, or will his primal state also be outmatched? So without further ado, let's jump right into this. For starters, let's begin with
a good video to react to. Yeah, I believe so as well, because I haven't watched this video. I know I talked with Dot about some of the scaling in the video because I mainly skipped to certain parts of the video to like look at the scaling. And I'll get to which part I skipped to. He tries to do an immeasurable speed argument for Goku in GT, which is really dumb, and I'll explain why it doesn't work when we get to it.
Goku, who would not only scale from the Z anime, but from some movies as well, since we see Cooler, Frieza's brother, in one of the scenes during the Super 17 Hell arc, which will be very important later on. To begin, base GT Goku is easily superior to his Super Saiyan 3 levels of power from the Buu saga, as he's able to have a pretty intense sparring match with Oob at the beginning of the series, who is literally Kid Buu reincarnated and with several years of training on top of that.
Okay, so I do have a problem with this. And here's what I'll say my problem is. We don't know if Oob is able to fully tap into Kid Buu's power. We don't know if Oob here is as strong as Kid Buu. And we can't know for certain. Because there is a statement in GT, if I'm not mistaken, that General Rildo should be as strong as Majin Buu. Now, you could argue he's talking about Kid Buu. But again, Goku needs his Super Saiyan 2 at that point to defeat General Rildo. So, base Goku would not scale to that. At bare minimum, you could argue Super Saiyan 2 Goku at that point does. So, yeah.
This is insane because Kid Buu was not only capable of damaging the infinitely large Kaioshin realm while in his battle with Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but he was also implied as being able to wipe out the Grand
infinitely large? I would need to see some statements for that. That's a little sus.
Which is a decent fraction of the size of Heaven, a planet as wide as the infinite living universe.
Oh wait, whoa, what?
It's a decent fraction, but he was also implied as being able to wipe out the Grand Kai's planet, which is a decent fraction of the size of Heaven.
Where does he get that it's a fraction of the size of Heaven? I'm curious.
A planet as wide as the infinite living universe, making it in essence an infinitely sized planet if you want to take the guidebooks literally. I've gone over these feats before in my Broly vs. Buu video.
I believe we have this Broly vs. Buu video coming up, because I've never watched that as well.
Can easily be scaled from multi-galactic to universal plus levels of power, depending on the amount of damage he did and the amount of effort you think Kid Buu would have to put to being able to perform the aforementioned feats.
I don't necessarily disagree, but at the exact same time, it's a massive highball for Kid Buu. So I don't know.
I personally believe that there is more logical consistency with Buuhan being the strongest Buu, being that he forced Super Vegito, the verbatim strongest character in the Z anime series as proven by Daizenshu 7, to try against him when he performed the Vice Shout feat that was going to wipe out the living universe by collapsing alternate dimensions, and due to the Dragon Ball Forever guidebook, stating that he is the strongest Buu as well. But if you want to take the multitude of anime statements that infer that Kid Buu is the strongest one, then if Oob scales from Kid Buu, and Kid Buu is stronger than Buuhan, then Oob, and in effect base GT Goku, would already scale from their multi-galactic to Universe Plus levels of
So
power.
again, that's not Universe Plus. Universe Plus would be destroying a fourth dimensional time space like a Tesseract or like a Hypercube. You know, so that would just be high universal.
It becomes even more obvious when we see Goku hold up General Rildo in base, who he stated was even stronger
Oh,
than
it's even
Buu,
greater than
and
Buu. It's weird because I believe Goku needs Super Saiyan 2 to beat Rildo. So I don't know. I'd have to rewatch that fight.
and that's not comparing to everyone else they had fought until now. Again, we don't know which Buu he is referring to. Most people assume he's referring to Kid Buu or Fat Buu, since those are the most prevalent ones that he fought. But if we take it as a highball, we could argue it is talking about Buuhan. Regardless, if it's
I
talking
don't
about
think
Kid
there's
Buu,
any evidence to prove it's talking about Buuhan, so I wouldn't even use that. I would just say it's either Kid Buu or Majin Buu, because there's no evidence to prove he's talking about Buuhan.
doesn't really change anything because of the aforementioned anime statements, which GT clearly takes after. Not to mention that Dragon Book 7 actually states that Kid Buu is the strongest Buu as well. So hey,
Yeah,
just-
there are arguments to put Kid Buu above Buuhan, which I'm more than fine with. That would just mean Goku got like massively stronger after his fusion with Vegito. And this is supported by the anime where Super Saiyan Goku is able to like kind of dick on Ultimate Gohan. So it's fine.
food for thought. We can easily scale GT Goku above Super Vegito from Z, given that when Super Baby 1, Super Saiyan 2 Baby was transforming, he achieved, verbatim, the greatest Saiyan power ever, which Goku agreed with and even said that he had never felt a ki as awesome or as high as
Yeah,
his.
I'm fine with you scaling Super Saiyan 4 above Vegito. I'm more than fine with that. You could scale him above Super Saiyan Vegito. Above like a hypothetical Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, maybe. Really depends.
Since Goku is well aware of Vegito's power, this would infer that Super Baby 1 was superior to Super Vegito, and by extent, so was Super
Yeah, that's
Baby
fine.
2, who was absolutely dicked on by a suppressed Super Saiyan 4 Goku.
My only
Even
thing
after-
is, while yes, Super Saiyan 4 Goku was like significantly stronger than him, Baby was still able to damage him. So I wouldn't say Super Saiyan 4 Goku was like massively stronger than him, you know? But there's definitely a gap.
Baby himself got another additional boost by absorbing 1,000 times the blood waves amount that Goku did and became a golden great ape. Goku was still able to overcome him by obtaining a full power Super Saiyan 4 state by absorbing the energy from his allies. Which, although it's not outright stated to be a different form in the series, it is implied by video games that it is
Oh
certainly
yeah,
a
by the way,
different
Chuck's used video games in combination with anime scaling. It's really funky because like video games don't necessarily scale to the anime.
form from the typical Super Saiyan 4 state. Once Goku gets on by Baby Super Saiyan equivalent, even as a Super Saiyan 3, he gets teleported to the Sugoroku space after being saved from Baby's Revenge Death Ball by Kibito Kai, which is a space between dimensions that base Goku was able to crack and move around in after he destroyed it with a Kamehameha. If he's able to move around in a dimension whose time-space he likely destroyed, this would already
Okay, so I don't agree with this, okay? Saying he destroyed the time space, that's not an argument because that doesn't mean he actually destroyed the time space. Just saying he cracked through the dimension, that could just mean he like was strong enough to break through the dimension, similar to like Gogeta and like Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta and or Super Saiyan Gogeta and Broly did. It's a similar feat idea. So yeah.
give Goku inaccessible levels of speed.
Also,
other
that's
words-
wrong, and I'll explain why. The reason why that's wrong is because Goku can use teleportation. So why? And we know that his instant transmission would have to be slower than inaccessible speed, or at least, yeah. So no.
He's able to move in a space without time-space, or when time itself is zero, which is far faster than being massively faster than light, or being able to move through an infinite realm in finite time, like we saw with Afterlife Saga-based Goku, when he crossed to Hell from the Grand Kai's planet in a few moments.
Yeah, this is an anime filler, but if you want to scale the anime Goku to this, it's fine. I have a video coming out next week of like speed and Dragon Ball explained. I use this for anime Goku scaling. So yeah.
Which should grant him infinite levels of speed, given that heaven, which is as wide as the infinite living universe, is but a fraction of the distance that Goku had to cover to get down to hell from the Grand Kai's
Yeah,
planet.
again, this is more than fine. I'm completely fine with this. There's a GT guide. Yeah, that is the GT Heroes guide that does, like, I believe it puts Goku from... It does, like, the Legacy of a Hero GT movie. And it puts Super Saiyan 4 Goku, like, potentially relative to Super Vegito. But again, you could just call that guide an outlier, potentially. So, yeah. You could just call it an outlier.
But GT Goku can be scaled even faster. Since Cooler is canon to GT, this would infer that Movie 5 and Movie 6 are
Okay,
canon to...
not necessarily Movie 6. We don't have any real evidence that Movie 6 happened. We only know Movie 5 happened. You could make the case that Movie 6 happened. But again, we don't even know if Movie 5 and Movie 6 are, like, canon to each other. That's the thing. You know? Because from what... Because we just don't know.
to GT as well. Which is absolutely insane because as confirmed in a guide, when
Oh,
Goku
here
and
we go.
Cooler were fighting in the middle of instant transmission, they were brawling in a space beyond
Okay,
time,
so...
making them immeasurable.
No, that is fucking false. That is, like, actually fucking insane. Okay, so what does it mean to be immeasurable? Let's first go over what immeasurable means. Immeasurable means to be beyond linear time. So you would not only be beyond, like, one happened. We don't know that Metacooler showed up. Yeah. So, the problem with using this to scale them to immeasurable is let's actually read what it says. In Clash 10 billion powers, Metacooler, or Metacooler, also uses instantaneous movement, and even battles in transitional space, transitional space are depicted. In the movie version, instantaneous movement is interpreted as passing through a different space that transcends time. So the problem with this is twofold. One, you could argue this is just how it's depicted. You could argue this is only how it's depicted and that this is not actually necessarily happening. Based on, like, how it's worded. But also, this doesn't necessarily mean that their speed scales to this, in the sense, because they're using instantaneous movement to travel to this dimension, and you could also argue they might be using it to move in this dimension as well. As well, I want to bring up another state. I want to bring in something else as well. Let me quickly get it. There is my friend who's in the chat, Dotbat, actually ran this scan through ChatGPT and got a completely different translation. And I would argue ChatGPT is, like, a better translation because of the fact that ChatGPT can, like, teach you how to, like, read another language. So here it is. Let me quickly... Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. So this is the scan. And it reads, in the movie Clash, 4.1 billion power warriors, even Metacooler utilizes instant transmission to engage in battle within the space of instant movement. This intense battle unfolds until an explosive climax. Instant transmission appears to function as a way to travel through different dimensions in space, as depicted in the theatrical version. The image above shows the intense battle between Goku and Metacooler in the realm of instant movement. Metacooler mechanical nature allows him to perform instant transmission effortlessly. So in this one, and yes, ChatGPT was trained in conversational Japanese, so again, I would say he is a reliable source. This talks about nothing about the dimension transcending time. It just states it's the dimension of instant transmission. People who use instant transmission to go in the theatrical version. So again, this does not qualify for immeasurable speed. So yeah, actually kind of stupid. Yeah, so again, it doesn't qualify for measurable speed. I think Chuck using this argument is kind of dumb.
Or in other words, they have movement beyond linear time, which for example would be comparable to Silver Surfer time traveling through pure speed alone. And did I forget to mention that Goku and Metacooler did this in base? And it's also more likely that most of the movies are canon, being that Goku does know the Dragon Fist, which he only showcased in movie 13, so we know at least movie 5.
Again, maybe that's very, like, you know, that's very, like, headcanon-y. You could make the case that Cooler's Revenge and Way of the Dragon are canon, but again, meh, I don't know.
6 and 13 are within GT's continuity. Point is, it is clear as day that using the Z anime continuity in the Z movies, base GT Goku is capable of moving at infinite speeds at bare minimum.
I would say GT Goku moving at infinite speed in terms of combat speed is fine. In my video I'm gonna be posting there, I do give a good manga argument for manga Goku being infinite speed,
but can reach inaccessible and even immeasurable levels of speed.
Again, I disagree with the inaccessible and immeasurable. I thought about covering the immeasurable thing in my video, but I decided not to because I didn't think it was worth the time. Because it just the argument is they can teleport. Why would they have inaccessible speed or immeasurable if they can teleport? Again.
Not to mention that during his scuffle with Cell and Frieza, base Goku, by simply powering up, was able to shake the afterlife all the way down from hell, which is consistent given his power growth. Goku then gets several times stronger, given that even though he saw Majub get his ass beat by Super 17 from hell, he was still confident enough to fight him in his mastered Super Saiyan state, and he even manages to get a decent hit in. Of course, Super 17 was sticking around, but Goku was still doing better than Majub was, even though Super Saiyan 3 Goku in an earlier arc was struggling against Super Saiyan Baby, yet Majub was able to somewhat compete with Super Baby 2, or the equivalent of Baby Super Saiyan 3 form as inferred in the GT Perfect Files. Before we get into the Shadow Dragon arc, where Goku showcases even more insane shit, we have to go over a guidebook statement from the Dragon Ball
this
GT
is the guidebook. This is the guidebook, I believe, that states Super Saiyan Vegito is almost like relative to like Super Saiyan 4.
TV special comic that infers that Super Vegito might surpass the power of a Super Saiyan 4. But going by the aforementioned scaling and statements, it is more than likely that Super Vegito is far inferior to Super Saiyan 4 Goku, but for those that do think the guidebook is correct, I guess you could at least imply that Super Vegito and Super Saiyan 4 Goku are similar in power, but that would be quite illogical since Enraged Buhan was able to make Super Vegito struggle through breaking his Vice-Shout barrier, which would infer that although Super Vegito was superior to Buhan, he wasn't so
Again, this is an Enraged Buhan. This wouldn't scale to his base strength. As we know, when you get Enraged in Dragon Ball, you get a massive power amp. So I would just say this doesn't necessarily scale to Buhan's like standard strength.
Overwhelmingly powerful that he would be able to beat him easily. Yet, Buu Plus level characters like Rildo were introduced, and Super Saiyan 4 Goku was able to overcome quite easily. Also, the guidebook is not 100% clear on if they mean Super Saiyan 4 Goku in general, or just a Super Saiyan 4 multiplier in itself. Regardless, I personally don't agree with this statement, just going by how GT seems to outscale anything we have seen in Z, but if you go by this statement, then I guess you could argue straight away that Golden Frieza does slap, given that during the Battle of Gods movie, Goku states that even fusion wouldn't be enough to take care of Beerus, yet Super Saiyan God Goku, and by extent Super Saiyan Blue Goku, would be able to contend with him a lot better. Also, one could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that the guide that states Super Vegito may be stronger than a Super Saiyan 4 came out during the Baby Saga, or around
I
there.
believe
So
the guide came out during the Legacy of a Hero movie. I believe that TV special guide is like the Legacy of a Hero movie guide. I could be mistaken though.
Super Saiyan 4 Goku from the Super 17 or Shadow Dragon arcs, or even Super Saiyan 4 Goku in general to begin with, but I thought it would be good to bring up for those that were curious about my thoughts on it. But even if we take this statement literally, Super Saiyan 4 Goku should not only have superior stamina than Golden Frieza, given that he was able to take a multitude of attacks and stay transformed, even when his ki was drained, but going by scaling from Metacooler, he should be far faster than Z Golden Frieza as well, if you want to argue that the Z movies did not take place during the same continuity as the Battle of Gods and the Revival of Frieza.
Okay, so let's hypothetically use this immeasurable cooler scaling. So Koyama states that the movies are canon to the anime, despite how inconsistent they are. So that means you could simply argue that since the anime for Super and the movies take place right after the anime of... I believe they're canon to the anime continuity as well. I'm not 100% sure. then you could just argue that, yeah, they scale potentially. That Goku would scale to Super Goku would scale to that as well. Or maybe that's just the anime of Super.
More on this later on, though. There aren't any universal feats within the Battle of Gods or Revival of Frieza movies, but they do clearly infer that Super Saiyan God Goku and by extent Beerus and Golden Frieza scale well above Super Saiyan Vegito and therefore scale to being well above baseline universal. Although Golden Frieza doesn't quite scale to a full power Beerus and Z, he would scale from his level of raw power that he showed in the Battle of Gods movie, that was stated as transcending dimensions in the Chozenshu 4.
What? Thanks to that, I managed to get out of the crisis of time. During Kaido Shin's God's direction for a couple relationship completely shrouded and skeptical. However, the power possessed by the God's direction actually transcends dimensions faced with them. That's a very weird statement. Because what dimensions does he transcend? Does he transcend like first and second dimensions? Does he transcend third dimensions? That's a very odd statement.
Which you could argue is enough to wipe out the afterlife, which is a higher dimensional realm as confirmed by the Daizenshu 4 world
Okay,
guide.
There are arguments that the afterlife is like a 4D construct. However, the way that translation is actually a bad translation. And I'll explain why. Because I have a translation from ChatGPT that has a different that says something different. Here, let me get it up. It's not here. Oh, it's in. I gotta quickly go to my chats because I was talking to Dot about it the other day. Let me quickly go find it. So yeah, let me quickly save these. I'll just save them to here. It's fine. It's fine. Hold on. Sorry about this, guys. I want to get these up real quick. Okay. So let me bring them up. So if you run the actual translation through ChatGPT, he gives a very interesting perspective on it. But it gives a very interesting perspective. Let me quickly bring it in. So yeah, this is what ChatGPT has to say. God, and this is the gods who oversee everything in the world, who have a heavenly realm that transcends dimensions. It is a celestial kingdom beyond human comprehension, surpassing even the heavens themselves, which cannot be fully understood from the human realm. So based on this statement, you could argue that it transcends heaven, which should be an infinite 3D realm, based on the fact that it can hold like the inhabitants from the living world. As well, if you don't necessarily agree with translation, you can also ask ChatGPT for multiple interpretations, which let me bring up here. Right here. You can ask ChatGPT for multiple interpretations, and all the interpretations roughly say the same thing. Surpass dimensions, transcends dimensions. So it's just consistent in this guidebook at least, that the afterlife would potentially transcend the heavens, and potentially put it at a 4D construct. Now, again, if you don't agree with this, that's fine. But isn't it something interesting to know?
This is consistent due to the fact that the June 2013 V-Jump issue states that Super Saiyan God Goku and by extent Beerus had been part of a super dimensional battle. In other words,
that's I have thoughts on that. Okay, super dimensional battle. What does a super dimensional battle mean? A super dimensional battle, all multiple interpretation makes ChatGPT good for this. Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to saying a super dimensional battle, what does that mean? Okay, what does super mean? Okay, if you look up the definition for super, it literally means especially, very, or very good, such pleasant, you know. Like here, let me screenshot this and like put it up on screen. Let me screenshot this and put it up on screen. I need to find somewhere I can put this. I'll put in my downloads. That'll work. So you'll hear my screenshotting software. So let me quickly bring it up on screen. Here we go. Okay. Here you go. Super. The definition super from the Oxford Dictionary. There are multiple definitions. Informal means especially or very. It could mean very good or pleasant, excellent. It could mean a superintendent. It could mean an extra unwanted or unimportant person. But overall, super, it would just be a very good... Nowhere in this statement does it ever state that it is like... So that just doesn't mean it's a like higher dimension necessarily. That's it. It's a very weird statement, okay? But based on the definition of super, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is like a higher dimensional battle. Oops, wrong button. But yeah. So again, it doesn't mean like it's like a higher dimensional battle necessarily. You might be able to use this in conjunction with like the guidebook statement for the other two guidebook statements he said, potentially.
And Frieza, even in the Z continuity, has an argument for having fifth dimensional
At
power.
best, it would be fourth dimensional, not necessarily fifth dimensional. And the fact that Chuck is using fifth dimensional makes me question his intelligence legitimately. That's not me even being rude. That's just me being like actually genuine. Like I'm genuinely shocked that he's trying to use this as like an actual argument. Yeah, that genuinely shocks me. So yeah.
It also depends on how you want to interpret the following statement from the 2013 Battle of Gods Battle Book, which states that Beerus' power transcends all previous villains and is in a different dimension of power.
Hold on, let's read that. So he's a Beerus. So specifically, where he's pointing, Beerus, the god of destruction, is an overwhelming, strong, and fearsome opponent that goes beyond the dimensions and levels of past villains. So you could make the case that he scales the fourth dimensional based off these statements, and I wouldn't necessarily be against that. You could argue he's fourth dimensional in there by putting Goku from the Battle of Gods movie to fourth dimensional. That's a really interesting way of putting it, and I don't necessarily disagree. But putting him at fifth dimensional, I would 100% disagree with.
Villains, and it's in a different dimension of power. So, does this statement mean that Beerus is above all the canon Z villains like Cell and Boo, or does it mean he's above all villains in general?
If we go back to the actual statement, goes above all of the past villains. It doesn't specifically state that it's talking about the canon villains. You could make the case it might be talking about the movie villains as well, which would put him above the likes of Janemba, who beat a Super Saiyan 3 Goku who shook both hell and the actual entire afterlife. So that's kind of crazy. Let's go back.
Power. Or does it mean he's above all villains in general, including the ones from the movies and GT, like Omega Shenron, Broly, and Janemba?
I don't necessarily think it might put him above GT. I mean, if you want to argue it does, then absolutely he stomps completely.
If you want to argue it means it's above all villains in general, then this would mean that Beerus, and by extension Golden Frieza, would scale from Metacooler's immeasurable speed feat.
Again, not immeasurable speed. Just putting that out there.
But if you want to argue it just means that Z-canon villains, then Goku would still have the speed advantage scaling off of Metacooler, which is honestly the only thing that makes his battle somewhat competitive. Regarding the Shadow Dragon Saga, the evil Shenron is stated as being able to bring destruction to the universe, which does make sense as some of them were able to somewhat compete with Super Saiyan 4 Goku, like Ice and Nova Shenron. Or well, not really Ice Shenron because he got Dragon Fisted hella hard. However, Shin Shenron was about that for sure, since he effortlessly killed Nova Shenron, tanked the 10 times Kamehameha from Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and after he transformed into Omega Shenron, he became at least 10 times stronger than before, which allowed him to slap 2 Super Saiyan 4s around and endure an attack from Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, somehow. Omega Shenron using his minus energy was going to be able to wipe out the entire macrocosm over time, which can be scaled to low multiversal.
I 100% disagree with this. Okay, so here's the problem with scaling that way. From what we know of his minus energy, we don't know... It was going to corrupt and corrode the universe over time. That does not necessarily mean it's going to destroy it, if I'm not mistaken. So, that would not put Omega Shenron at multiversal. And that's just crazy.
Going simply off of raw power levels. He even states numerous times that he would lay waste to the galaxy and the entire universe like a god of destruction. For further confirmation that he would destroy the entire macrocosm, including the afterlife, it is also stated by the Kais that even their realm would not be spared. Yet, even so, Super Saiyan 4 Goku with his Dragon Fist was able to pierce right through him and nearly would have killed him if it wasn't for Omega Shenron's bullshit regeneration. Regardless, the point is that Super Saiyan 4 Goku would somewhat scale to Omega Shenron's raw power if he's
Again,
able to
this is not the case, because as we stated earlier, Goku was getting fondled by Omega Shenron, and I would just argue this just multiplies his attack potency by like 10 times. So that does not necessarily mean that Goku scales to Omega Shenron, so that's like not an argument.
with him and severely damage him, making him in essence 5D or low multiversal, just like Frieza as
Bro,
well.
5D! No, he doesn't.
It is also stated that Ultra Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku was close to as strong as Omega Shenron. Again, it depends on if you want to argue that the original Z movies are part of the Battle of Gods and a revival of Frieza canon. But if they aren't a part of it, then we can argue that Super Saiyan 4 Goku has the greater speed and logically the greater
I would
stamina.
never argue he has... not even close. Not even close. Because of the fact that using that immeasurable speed thing for like this is just not possible. It just isn't possible. And it makes me laugh that Chuck is using it for a video. It makes me genuinely question his intelligence as a power scaler. And this is not me even trying to be rude. I'm genuinely curious. Like, does he actually believe this? Or is he using it for like just for controversy? That's what I wonder.
But if we do infer that the Z movies take place in the same continuity, then even Base, or Final Form Frieza, would be able to exterminate Goku, given that he was somewhat on par with Base Goku, who at this point had achieved the same Beyond God state, which allowed him to exhibit Super Saiyan God levels of power in Base, which as I mentioned earlier, is stated to have super dimensional power and in effect would also
Again,
surpass
I've already explained why the super dimensional power argument just doesn't work.
all of the previous movie and GT villains and by extent, eliminate Goku's speed advantage. Now, if we were to use the canon Dragon Ball Super scaling for the Revival of Frieza arc, then Golden Frieza would blow GT Goku out of the water attack potency and durability wise even more, given that he would scale massively above the Battle of Gods Super Saiyan God Goku that was going to be able to wipe out the macrocosm, a small multiverse with several infinite time-space continuums while suppressed, which easily trumps whatever raw power scaling we have for GT
Again,
Goku,
I would
who
agree with like using this to scale Goku, but at the exact same time, just the way he scales it is kind of wrong, you know, because it's not 5D, it's 4D at best. So you could argue this is like a universal plus like feat for Goku.
somewhat scales to Omega Shenron. And speed-wise, Goku might still have it there. Although the Dragon Ball Super characters do reach inaccessible and infinite speeds,
We're not going to touch on this.
they don't quite get to immeasurable speeds. So even though Golden Frieza would have a massive power advantage, Goku might still have an answer with his speed and stamina. Too Long didn't read, if we're using strictly Dragon Ball Z Revival of Frieza scaling, then GT Goku would win through speed blitzing. If we're using the Revival of Frieza movie plus the original DBZ movies, then Golden Frieza would stomp and attack potency, speed, and durability. But if we're using the Dragon Ball Super scaling, then Frieza would still be stronger, but lose his speed advantage, giving GT Goku a chance to outlast and blitz. Then again, if you consider Battle of Gods and the Revival of Frieza movies to be canon to GT, which I've seen some people argue before, then with that logic you could argue that GT Goku does win overall. But anyways, what did you think of this breakdown?
Okay, the video's ended. That was terrible, and I'm gonna be 100% real with y'all. That was terrible. Chuck, I'm genuinely concerned, brother. Like, here's the thing. I think it would have been better for him to do this as a debate, because he could have probably won a debate like this. But making a video, no one in Dragon Ball community is gonna agree with this video, and it's probably made just to stir up controversy to get his video more likes and more views. So yeah, like, look, it's got like 74,000 views, so that's probably what it was made for. But anyways, that was Chuck's video. That was Chuck's video, and I am going to say this right now, 100% I disagree with it. I do not agree with Goku scaling that high. And the fact that Chuck put Goku that high concerns me. You know? So, yeah. So anyways, I think we're going to move on to the next video. I believe this is the... Yeah, this is the Kid Buu versus Broly video
In
that
the
Chuck
world
did.
of
So we're also going to be doing this, and then we're going to be reacting to 2 more videos by a YouTuber called New Horizon. No, it's not just almost misinformation. It's basically misinformation. It's completely misinformation for a video, but it is like good information for like a debate if you can win it. But again, in my opinion, there's too many counter arguments for it to actually be used well in a debate, unless he's debating like a dumbass, you know. So, anyways, let's watch this Broly versus Kid Buu. I haven't seen it yet.
In the world of Dragon Ball, there is no shortage of absolute sociopaths that don't give a about anything but throwing hands and trying to catch a fate from Goku.
I mean, that's not incorrect. A lot of the village just want to catch Goku's fade.
The ultimate life form known as Cell, who would rather blow himself up and take the Earth with him than take an L to a child, to the time-skipping assassin Hit, who literally uses a lag switch while fighting in real life, and the evil galactic overlord Frieza, who one-tapped Goku and Vegeta in their strongest forms after training for 10 years straight for almost no reason. He just wanted to beat Goku's ass that badly. And although these characters are formidable in their own right, it is hard to think of anyone more menacing and more impactful than the two universal threats that the Z fighters had to face off against in the OG Dragon Ball Z run. One of them being the magical bubblegum alien, Majin
The
Buu,
magical
and the other
bubblegum.
being the
Yo, the
legendary
magical
Super
bubblegum alien. I love it. That's funny as hell.
Saiyan, Broly, from the original Z movies. You would be surprised to see how much alternate media compares Broly to the Buu Saga era events of the series, such as the video games throwing Broly as an optional encounter you face before fighting Majin Buu, rather than before Cell, or even him facing Super Gogeta in cutscenes, which I wouldn't be surprised if it inspired the current Broly of Gogeta of today. But which of these two is actually the strongest? If you know anything about Dragon Ball Z and how the power progression goes, you may expect Majin Buu to sweep pretty easily here, no? After all, he did fight Super Saiyan 3 Goku.
Majin Buu, Kid Buu, if you want to scale him, could potentially scale to Universal, to multi-galaxy Universal. Broly's best feat, I believe, in his movies is being able to destroy a galaxy over time, which doesn't mean he's galaxy level. That means he's like multi-solar system, I believe. So,
who shook the Earth, and whose massive ki levels could be felt in another dimension, being the Kaioshin realm. He also fought Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, who could open up dimensions with his powerful ki shouts, and of course, to giving the ultimate fusion, Super Vegito, some difficulties for a bit when enraged. While Broly, on the other hand, only fought multiple Super Saiyans prior to the Buu Saga. However, when we're analyzing things closer like feats and statements, the debate certainly becomes more difficult to decipher, especially when you take into consideration that the movies and main continuity have two different events of scaling and even stories that happen. Take for instance in movie 10, Broly is actually facing a 7-year trained Gohan, rather than the usual 7-year rusty
yeah,
Gohan
that's really
in the
weird. In the Broly movie, Gohan was stated to get stronger. Like, he's considerably powered up. Wait, what was it? And here I'm supposed to have powered up considerably since back then. Yeah, it's weird.
Facing a 7-year trained Gohan, rather than the usual 7-year rusty Gohan in the actual Buu Saga that we got. Even then, Toriyama stated that the movies take place in another dimension, so when you say, well, Broly takes place before the Buu Saga, it doesn't actually apply logically.
You could use the Koyama statement that I mentioned earlier. He states it takes place in the anime, even though it's like hilariously inconsistent, which is really stupid in my opinion. But you could use it to like put these in the anime, say these scale to the anime.
That is a different universe with different events and powers than the main one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see who would win between these two absolute units. First off, we're going to analyze the battle going from pure feats. For starters, Broly, while in his restrained Super Saiyan state, i.e. in a heavily nerfed state, he was able to wipe out massive portions of the South Galaxy, which is not a singular galaxy, but an immensely large galaxy cluster, which is likely infinite in magnitude, given that the living universe is infinite and has infinite galaxies, which are themselves full of innumerable nebulas or solar systems, as revealed in the Daizenshu 4, World Guide, and the Chozenshu 4.
That's actually a very fair point. I forgot about how the the different like north, south, east, and west galaxies scale. I forgot about that. So yeah, that's fine putting him at Universal Plus. That's more than fine. Or not Universal Plus, Universal. That's more than fine. I would just say that Kid Buu just scales above, because you could scale Kid Buu to Universal Plus because he was going to destroy the entire universe, not just the living realm, but like the whole universe. I don't know if Broly had a statement for that too.
officially licensed guidebooks. So, if there are innumerable galaxies and nebulas, and so forth, then Broly destroying 1/4 of this has some serious connotations that cannot really be ignored. On top of that, it is stated numerous times that if Broly were left alive, he would be able to wipe out everything in the living universe. Even if you absurdly lowball this and say that it'll be over his entire lifetime, which is not implied, you're looking at bare minimum multi-solar system to multi-galactic levels of power right off the bat. And that is not to mention that he not only survived his first encounter with the Z Fighters, but became far stronger in the second coming to the point that Super Saiyan Goku had to step into the fray alongside his sons to defeat him. And even then, he had an even more dreadful level of power in his Bio Broly incarnation. I'll touch up more on this later, but although it is hard to believe, yeah, the Broly that we saw in the Bio Broly movie within the test tube is outright the strongest version of Broly that we ever saw in Z, as it is inferred by a guidebook and a DVD box that Bio Broly is indeed more powerful than
That's kind of crazy.
Broly, but was unfortunately nerfed in his showing due to being clammed on, which slowed down his movements and made him weak to seawater. It would be quite illogical to scale Movie 10 Broly above Movie 11 Broly, being that Bio Broly is literally Broly but highly enhanced into a Bio Warrior, with said Bio Warriors being strong enough to take multiple hits from Android 18, Goten, and Trunks. Now, I'm not scaling these Bio Warriors to these characters to their full extent, but it is worthy to mention that they were clearly durable enough to not get totally on. And I don't know about you guys, but I doubt characters like Recoome or Raditz would be able to tank as many hits as these guys did, considering that base Goku in the Namek Saga was...
I don't know why he's bringing this up. I really don't know why he's bringing this up. This has no real... Is this just to pad out the video? Because I don't think this has really any connotations.
Have characters like Burter and Recoome, and Android 18, Goten, and Trunks should be around as strong, if not stronger, than the Afterlife Saga Goku, who one-tapped the Ginyu Force in base as well.
That's contentious. I don't know. I genuinely don't know, because this Goku is able to fight Pikkon, who, like, with his weights on, completely dominated, literally one-shotted a Super Perfect Cell. Literally one-shotted Super Perfect Cell, so I don't know. We don't know how strong they are.
So, if an average human has a power level of 5, and assuming that these guys are at least Raditz level as a low ball, they would still be getting hundreds of times stronger than before, so a decent multiplier can be applied to Bio Broly through this mindset.
I don't think so. Wait, what?
5, and assuming that these guys are at least
Why
Raditz
would
level
we assume they're Raditz level?
as a low ball, they would still be getting hundreds of times stronger than before, so a decent multiplier can be applied to Bio Broly through this
I
mindset.
definitely don't think so. That's like that's an absurd notion. That is like, holy shit, that is absurd to say that. That is absolutely absurd. Holy shit.
I just want to make it clear that despite the lower intellect, lesser combat experience, and lesser speed compared to Movie 10 Broly, Bio Broly should still be far more powerful, logically speaking. Long story short, Broly's whole gimmick in Z is having insane genes and latent potential. Being born with a power level of 10,000, and pretty much being a natural Super Saiyan, Bio Broly is that Broly's insane genes and latent potential, but amplified with scientific research and study. Regardless, it is clear as day that Broly should scale up to multiple.
Using the Raditz shit, that doesn't work at all, so... I'm sorry, I can't get over that. That's fucking insane that he would make that claim.
Now, what do we have for the Boos? Going off the manga, there's not much to boost power apart from being stated as wiping out hundreds of planets in a few years, which Broly, while restrained, was able to do that, and in a larger magnitude at that. There's also a statement saying that Kid Buu was powerful enough to wipe out the universe in a poof, which if taken literally could be used to argue that manga Majin Buu is an universe buster. But I think it just more so means that he would be able to wipe out the universe over time, and El Manga Legendario, an officially licensed guidebook, also infers that Majin Buu is powerful enough to destroy the universe. But once again, going purely off feats, the Boos and even Buuhan don't have galactic level feats, much less multi-galactic level feats.
If I'm not mistaken, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Buuhan do like the whole universe busting feat in the manga? Or am I tripping about that? Is that anime only? Is that anime only? Here, let me look. I'll quickly go to one of my scan servers and just take a look-sees. Otherworld Saga, Buu, Fusion, Super Buu, Buuhan, here we go. It might just be in the anime. I think, yeah, it might just be in the anime. Yeah, I think it was just, yeah, probably just in the anime. That's tough. But based on feats and statements, Manga Boo should be able, because in the manga he said, like, yeah, he'll destroy the entire universe. So him and Broly would in the first movie would scale relative based on those statements. And if you want to use the anime has scaling that puts Kid Buu above Buhan based on statements of him being like the strongest Buu in the anime. And Buhan was going to destroy the entire universe by collapsing multiple dimensions into it. So you could simply argue that Kid Buu would scale above Buhan, who scales relative to Broly. And bada bing, bada boom. Yeah.
But what about the anime? Now this is where things get more spicy, as there are 3 amazing showings and implied feats that showcase just how overpowered Majin Buu really was. First off, Kid Buu, while he was looking for more ops to run down on, was stated as planning to destroy the Grand Kai's planet, which is an infinitely large planet. Given that Heaven is stated in guidebooks and in the anime to being as wide as the infinite living universe, and the Grand Kai's planet is a decent fraction of its size.
So my question is, where does he get the information that it's a decent fraction of its size? That's my only concern. Because I don't know where he gets that information from, but I guess fine.
Is at least a multi-galactic level feat, if not higher, depending on if you want to argue that Kid Buu could wipe it out in one shot.
This is that's not multi-galactic, that's just universal. It's like how Broly's just universal. Like if you're wiping out an infinite universe over a course of time, that still puts you at universal. That would still put you at infinite 3D. I don't necessarily think you could argue that he might scale to like the Super Spirit Bomb, maybe. But my only thing about that, and I'll explain why I don't necessarily agree with that. From what we can see, Kid Buu got obliterated by it. And when Goku, and the actual power of it pushing was from Goku. So I wouldn't necessarily say Kid Buu scales to the Spirit Bomb. Because of the fact that the moment the Spirit Bomb properly attacked him, he got obliterated completely. So I don't necessarily think that scales.
Even if we downplay and say that he can at least fracture the planet, that'd still be a multi-galactic level
The
feat.
fuck is multi-galactic? Are you talking about multi-galaxy? That'd be a universal feat if it's like a fraction of the infinite heavenly realm. That would literally just be a universal feat. That's not a multi-galactic. Is he like unironically lowballing them?
Another cool feat is when Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu were trading blows, and it was stated by the Kaioshin that their intense battle was causing damage to the Kaioshin realm. Now this feat is impressive given that the Kaioshin realm is 1/10 the size of the macrocosm, but it wouldn't be fair to scale Kid Buu to being able to wipe out the whole realm in one shot because there is no indication of that. Depending on how intense you think Kid Buu's damage would be, you can argue for it being another galactic, possibly even an universe level feat given the size of the realm. And finally, the best feat in the anime likely belongs to Super Buhan, who while in a pissed off state, pushed Super Vegito to try a good amount to break through his barrier that was supposed to shield him while he performed the Vice Shout, which is confirmed by guidebooks and the anime including Kai as being able to wipe out the universe through a chain reaction by collapsing surrounding dimensions. This feat is at least multi-galactic, but can easily be argued to be in universal.
I'm assuming multi-galactic means like multi-galaxy. But no, that would just be a straight universal feat, a high universal feat. That's just straight universal. Because he's gonna destroy the entire universe, so yeah, that'd just be universal at bare minimum. You could argue universal plus if you want to say the afterlife scales to like a 4th dimensional construct. So I don't know where he's getting multi-galactic. That's just like a misrepresentation.
Plus, given that Buu hit Vegeta with that level of power, inferring that he had that much potency in his attacks. So
what? Not even close. Hold on, give me a second. Oh, guys, it looks like we have a special delivery. I've just been brought food. I've been brought ramen and root beer Thank you, kind stranger. Sorry, that was my mom who brought me it. She's awesome. So we have food and drink now. We have a soda, a root beer soda. It's an A&W, and we also have ramen. So now we can stream in style with food. All right. So if you hear me with my mouth full, it's because I'm also eating while we're watching.
If we go by feats from the anime, I believe Broly can handle Fat Boo and Kid Boo, but would have trouble against Super Boo.
In the anime, it really depends on if you want to scale Kid Boo above Super Boo or Buhan, because there are anime statements that Kid Boo is stronger than Buhan. As well, there are some guidebook statements as well in the anime at least. So, take it how you will.
Boost. Now, I've already done a video discussing who's the strongest Boo incarnation, Buhan. But for those that consider the multitude of anime statements saying that Kid Boo is the strongest Boo as credible, then I guess you can argue that if Broly cannot beat Buhan, then by extension he could not beat Kid Boo if you think Kid Boo would be above even enraged Buhan. But hold up, alright. There's something that may change the argument though. If the Boos have superior attack potency and by extension durability, what about speed? Since Broly can wipe out the universe in a much shorter time frame than the seemingly immortal Boo, he can be argued as being much faster than Majin Buu. However, we have to take into account the speed that Broly would scale from if we scale him from other movie villains.
Okay. So I believe the reason why he's trying to do this is because Koyama says Broly is the strongest of all the movie villains. Is he?
Although it is unclear if movie 11, Bio Broly, and movie 12, Fusion Reborn, are connected, we know movie 8 and 10 are released in this iteration, given that we see a scene from movie 8 in the after credits, and of course we see Paragus in the scene where all the villains come back, alongside lots of other characters, including Cooler Squadron, which is very important because if you know anything about Cooler, you may know that Cooler is one of the fastest, if not arguably the fastest movie villain, due to his feat of moving faster than an instant and being able to track Goku through his instant transmission. This is something I missed in my movie villains video, and it may actually change my scaling for Meta Cooler.
So we've already discussed this earlier in the video of why this doesn't make any sense for scaling, so I'm not going to touch it here.
But it is stated in the TV anime guide, Dragon Ball Z Son Goku Densetsu, that Meta Cooler and Goku were fighting in a space beyond time. So if you want to take this statement literally, it would imply that Meta Cooler and Movie 6 Goku, who are leagues upon leagues below Movie 8 Broly power-wise, are fighting at immeasurable levels of speed, or are showcasing speed.
This is just a blatantly, like, misinformation argument. No, this is complete misinformation. It's impossible to argue this. And I've already explained why. So I genuinely think, like the more I watch his videos, the more I feel like Chuck is like intentionally trying to spread misinformation, or just doesn't understand how power scaling works.
Completely transcends time. Further evidence that Broly was scaled to this even if the movies aren't connected is Koyama saying that the intention of every villain until he made Broly was for the villains to be stronger than the last. So even if you think Koyama is like some turbo Broly fanboy and unreliable, it was clearly still the staff and the team's original intention for the movies 6 to 8 to be stronger in order. Then you could argue that Koyama became biased that Broly was stronger than, say, Janemba or Hirudegarn afterwards. So if Broly is stronger than Movie 6 Goku, and they all use Ki to amplify their speed and power, then it is highly likely that Broly would also scale above Meta Cooler's speed.
Not even fucking close! Holy shit. I'm sorry I keep pausing to, like, rant about the same topic, but it's just completely baffling that he believes that I don't even know if he believes this. I hope he doesn't.
So, even if the Boos have superior attack power through the anime scaling, Broly would likely still speed blitz if you want to scale.
Holy shit, hold on. So I was drinking my soda and I nearly died. But yeah, again, I don't necessarily agree with this. I think this is dumb and bullshit, but hey, you know what, that's just me.
Scale him from Meta Cooler, especially if you consider the movies have different speed to power translations and the main timeline. Otherwise though, I think the Boost would beat him with a good degree of difficulty. Then again, you could argue that even if Broly was faster, Boo certainly does have several attributes that could help him outlast Broly and pull out a win, such as having a larger stamina pool, magic, and regeneration.
We don't know if he has a larger stamina pool than Broly, because we never actually see Broly get tired. In his fight with Goku, we never see him get like tired at all, almost. So we don't know if he has a bigger stamina pool. You could imply it, but I don't know.
But now, what if we were to use simply statements? It is pretty simple actually. Broly was clearly winning this category because according to Takao Koyama, the screenwriter of the original 13 DBZ movies and for some Buu Saga episodes in the anime, has stated that including the TV anime, Broly was the strongest character. And to this day, the old man is still posting his support for Broly, saying that he pictured him as the strongest character, and that in his point of view, only Beerus surpassed him. This is further backed up by him having Broly showing up 3 times, because he ran into a problem where he couldn't picture a villain stronger than Broly. He does point out that he may be biased in his creation within an
Yeah, I would just argue this is a massive bias thing. I'm not sure Broly's the strongest of the movie villains because if we go by simply like feats and statements, a bunch of movie villains, like Janemba has better feats than Broly.
interview, which is certainly a good counterpoint. And Koyama does kind of contradict himself as he says that he viewed Buu and Broly as having comparable levels of power on Twitter. But if we take his primary statement at face value, it would infer that Broly would slap Buu.
So you know what? We won't discuss it.
Alright, so this next source is more of a secondary or tertiary source, if it can really be called that, because in a French Dorothée magazine, it is stated that Broly was so powerful that Vegeta would only come close to his power, that Broly was the strongest character in Z, and it's even stated that Broly would have a big chance of winning against Super Saiyan 4 Goku, or Super Gogeta.
That's fucking crazy. We're not gonna touch this, because this just sounds dumb. I'm not even gonna touch it.
There are some inconsistencies and questionable things in the magazines, such as calling Vegito Gogeta, saying that Turles was Goku's brother, and ranking Krillin and Android 18 above Janemba, for instance. So these statements can be taken with a grain of salt, but I thought it would be interesting to bring it up because it does align with Takao Koyama's own take. In conclusion though, if we're using the manga scaling, then Broly washes the...
If we're using the manga scaling, he does not. That's unfortunate.
If we're using strictly anime feats, then Buuhan and Kid Buu have a great chance of winning, but it can be argued to be Broly's victory if you scale him off of Meta Cooler. And if we're going off of statements, then Broly would also stomp out in this category. So I think it is pretty clear as day to say that Broly would win overall, but I'm sure that there will be some Majin Buu diehards out there to disagree.
I'm not a Majin Buu diehard, but I 100% disagree with this scaling. This is like mad wank for Broly. I'm not even gonna front. This is just like some like insane level wank. Holy shit. It sounds like to me that Chuck is like a Broly diehard. Oh my god. That's really funny. That's like really, really funny. You know, that's just like crazy. Actually, real quick. Dot, since you're here. Here, Dot, do you want to join the stream? I could use some. Do you want to join the stream, brother? Do you want to call real quick? Yeah, I'll just message you on fucking. Because like while I love talking by myself to like no one, well mainly talking to the chat, I always like to also have someone to bounce off of and talk to, you know. But yeah, so overall, Broly does not scale, and it's hilarious that he tries to say he does. It's actually funny as hell. So we are going to go to the next video. I've got. Okay, sorry. That was my yeah. So the next video is in fact from New Horizon. I believe this is this is what if if Orochimaru and Jiraiya swap villains. Or swap fights, I should say. So this is very interesting. So let's watch it.
So today I'm going to be doing one of TG's ideas, really, with one of these swapped fights. I'm going to be swapping Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Lately on TG's channel, he's been doing, like, I went on his channel and did What If Naruto and Sasuke swapped all their fights. He's done some other characters, and those videos have been great. Even Seth the Programmer did a video about Naruto.
Yeah, he really did, actually. He who should not be named did that. Yeah, I'm not mentioning his name though.
Fights, and he sided
Oh.
TG, but I'm
Looks like Dot would else want to call. So you read about to meet Dot. Let's call him up. Salutations, Dot. How goes it?
That's going well, man. How
I'm
about
doing
you?
good. Say hi to chat. I believe you're in chat, so I say hi to chat.
Hey, what's
So
up,
I'm gonna link you
everybody?
to.
Oh, my sound
I'm
alright.
sure you sound fine because you'd be coming through the desktop audio, so I'm imagining you do. Hopefully. But yeah.
Oh wait, just share your screen.
Oh
with me.
yeah,
Just
that
share
also
your
works.
screen.
Let me just do that. Let me just share.
So that way I can make sure we're at the exact same
Yeah.
timestamp.
So the video that I'm currently watching, let me full screen it. Hopefully you can see the full screen. We're watching New Horizons video of how Orochimaru and Jiraiya would do if they swapped fights. So already I'm assuming I'm confident Jiraiya's going to lose the majority of these fights because Orochimaru just blatantly scales above Jiraiya on multiple occasions. So yeah, let's see how he does.
I'm sure everyone knows about that by now. As for this video, it's gonna be, like I said, Jiraiya versus Orochimaru.
If he tries to put Jiraiya against Hiruzen is dogging on Jiraiya. I'm not even gonna front. That's like,
What about the state? Well, hold on. Oh yeah, the statements about Jiraiya, like you were saying earlier about how you thought Jiraiya might be the strongest person in the village. That would only be
yeah,
after
that would
Hiruzen's
be
death,
after
right?
would only be after Hiruzen's death, because Hiruzen has like multiple statements of him being like the god of Shinobi and being like stronger than even Hashirama potentially.
Are we accounting for Sage Mode during the part
I'd
one
imagine
fights?
not, simply because of the fact that one, we would have no knowledge of Sage Mode. Though I guess you might be able to account for Sage Mode even then.
That's kind of my problem with scaling Jiraiya, like in part one in a context like this, is kind of like doing part one guy. It's like, well, does he
I'd
have the
imagine
gates or
he
no
would
in
because he
different
taught Gilly the
interpretation?
gates. But regardless,
Yeah, exactly.
when it comes to Sage Mode, we know Jiraiya learned it as a kid between missions, so we don't know what his level of mastery of Sage Mode was here. If you want to give him Sage Mode, fine. I still don't think he beats Hiruzen in any capacity. Just because of how Hiruzen did against Hashirama and Tobirama. Because of the fact, like, even Hiruzen said, like, oh yeah, they're around their prime levels. Which is really crazy to think about. So, yeah.
But
I mean,
fights
Prime
are gonna be
Tobirama is probably like
Shut the fuck up.
weird with like.
I mean, it's
minions,
Tobirama.
like, we kind of ended up finding that a lot of these Sannin fights have like weird outcomes and weird like handicaps and stuff. So it's not gonna be. It's not. We're not gonna so much talk about like
Now,
like
what I
score.
wonder is, are they gonna use Orochimaru with his arms or without his arms? Because if they use it without his arms, then a lot of these fights, he still might scale above Jiraiya, but it's a lot more contentious. You know what I mean?
I would turn the subtitles on and turn the playback speed up to like 1.15. Just so that way
Yeah,
we can get through this
let's
a little quick.
turn the subtitles. Well, the only
but-
titles they have is like English auto-generated, so we're just going to like.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. They're
So
usually
we'll
close
turn to
enough. They're usually close enough.
125 just so like it doesn't take forever.
Or what we're going to be talking about who overall did better at the ends. But anyway, we can go ahead and start with the first fights, which is going to be Jiraiya versus Itachi.
Oh,
and
shit.
We're not going to so much talk about first
So,
place.
when it comes to Jiraiya versus Orochimaru, Jiraiya fucking stomps. Absolutely negs. Not even close. I don't think I should have to explain why.
It should be no surprise that
Yeah.
Itachi should win here, since he was able to beat Orochimaru with just base Sharingan Genjutsu, right? Like, he didn't even have to go deep in his bag. So, and Orochimaru should know that.
It's so weird. Like I don't know. Naruto and Sasuke switching fights is a more understandable what if for me, because like in the story, like they are portrayed as people that literally could have swapped paths. But like you have to do a lot more fuckery to get Orochimaru and Jiraiya to swap when
yeah.
they fight.
But even if you do,
Like, in what world is Orochimaru or is Jiraiya about to join the Akatsuki and get packed up by
that's true.
Itachi?
So it's just weird. I agree, but yeah.
On the eyes, which I hope Jiraiya would know as well.
Whoa, what?
And Orochimaru should know that not to look in their chi.
Not to look their Chia. That's funny. Look at those English generated subtitles. I love them.
Oh yeah, those subtitles are
That's
great.
funny.
It mostly got it.
got
It mostly got it.
eyes, which I hope Jiraiya would know.
Jiraiya. It does not.
Jiraiya. Hey, that is Jiraiya. If someone was hearing impaired and read Naruto, they would probably understand that is supposed to be Jiraiya.
It's kind of hard to make the case that if all the Sannin are on the same tier or relative, like
Oh, the signing. Okay,
Yeah.
the signing is would probably get.
I'm
somebody.
fair to say that the Sani should be all like in the same tier and fairly relative, but I think Orochimaru is still probably the strongest of the Sani.
Yeah, like if you're making a Naruto tier list, like I feel like you have to have Sani in tier as its own tier, and
Or-
you have to have, like I feel like Orochimaru would probably.
Or
at the
you
top.
could just put it into the Kage tier and scale them off the other Kage level fighters potentially, but I don't know.
how is Jiraiya going to escape?
He's
getting put in
not.
Genjutsu like immediately. It's generally with Genjutsu, it's more about kind of like a power level type of thing. Like if you're a tier above someone, it's easily put them into a Genjutsu.
Not
but
necessarily.
Anyway,
Okay, I disagree with that actually, because let's take a look at Kurenai. Her Genjutsu should be like at the top level of Jonin Genjutsu, if not maybe even stronger. But her Taijutsu's kind of ass from what we see. Like she should just be, from what we know, she should just be a like normal Jonin level Taijutsu. So one of your stats can be stronger, and this also is the same for like special Jonin. They have Chunin levels in other stats, but like in one stat they have Jonin levels. So I don't necessarily agree with that. You can.
Just because you scale over somebody in 1 point doesn't mean you scale over
Yeah.
them in everything. I have better IQ feats than Goku. That doesn't
Right?
mean I'm stronger than Goku.
we did say that Jiraiya can probably escape since Orochimaru somehow did. Like maybe Itachi just let him go for some reason. Don't really know what happened with the outcome of that fight. But not many people know this, but Jiraiya can turn invisible. Or he has like the transparency jutsu. I think he invented it or whatever. If he starts running and he turns invisible, it's gonna be hard. for
I'd
him to
imagine you
catch
could just
him.
see his chakra and would he be able to find him that way. It's like
What if he turned his chakra?
we don't know
invisible
what
too?
it actually does. I'd have to. Did he use that? We don't know. Who knows?
Since his only sensory ability is
I don't think he ever actually for real
Yeah,
used it.
same outcome there, really. The next fight we're gonna be talking about is Jiraiya.
Again,
versus
Hiruzen's
Hiruzen.
it's just going to bully Jiraiya. Even if you want to argue Sage Mode, I just say that then you could use Warwick Hiruzen feats, and then it just gets even crazier.
Earlier, you were talking about Frog Song. Are there people that legitimately try to put that over Infinite
There
Tsukiyomi
are,
because
yeah.
of the
A lot of
fucking-
people use the guide statements to put it over Infinite Tsukiyomi, and it's weird. I don't necessarily think it could scale above Infinite Tsukiyomi, but you know. I don't... Oh
That's
yeah,
disgusting.
I've also seen people try to put like Kodomatsu Kami above Infinite Tsukiyomi, and hell, even Itachi Tsukiyomi. It's crazy.
And Konami.
I'm gonna
constantly-
put like, the limited Tsukiyomi over the infinite Tsukiyomi from Road to Ninja because it modifies an entire
Maybe.
timeline.
the barrier. So this is basically just going to be Jiraiya in like that Kazekage position. They're going to set up that fight in that barrier. So an interesting thing about this is that, as we know, Orochimaru prepared for this very hard by learning how to summon Hashirama and Tobirama. In this case, Jiraiya is going to be feeling the same. Like this is basically the fight of his life.
Tobirama.
You know, fighting the supposed god of Shinobi. So
Oh yeah, by the
He's going-
by
The
the way,
supposed-
yeah.
The supposed god of Shinobi is hilarious
what
phrasing.
people don't realize is Orochimaru did like insane Batman level prep for this fight to like fight Hiruzen because he was so terrified of him.
I mean, he pulled up with like the dude's whole
Yeah, he
bloodline.
legit did, and Hiruzen still won that fight technically.
Yeah.
he was also mentally nerfed throughout the most of the fight. You could argue, you know, he was mentally nerfed.
Like
prepared by
basically, your
winning.
childhood best friend pulls up with all of your dead like
With
nephews.
with all your dead
For the
masters,
smoke.
yeah, you still like win.
Ma and Pa under his Kazekage cloak. I suppose that's kind of headcanon, but the cloak is very like I don't think anyone wants to debate me on this, but like it's very I think it's very easy to hide two toads under that cloak. What do you
What?
think?
I'm very confused. What do you mean? Okay, so Sage Mode Jiraiya just doesn't win. That's
You think,
Hold up.
you think this is a reach? You think it's a reach?
It's wild. No,
now that's
Yeah.
wild
Alright.
take.
But anyway, it's gonna be easy for Jiraiya to start in Sage mode. The way we look at this fight is basically when Orochimaru decided to fight Hiruzen, he basically had to summon like two Sannin level fighters.
A
'cause
lot
when
stronger than Sanya level fighters, but okay.
Hashirama and Tobirama were summoned.
Ashirama, love it.
Like,
Toby
they were more,
Rom!
like, Sannin level.
Toby Rom, I love it.
They got so close.
They got so close.
Because they were able to like keep up with
Like
Hiruzen.
Sawning
Hiruzen was
level. It's
really
at
outdoing them,
Sawning.
putting explosive tags on him, and he's able to find them in the Genjutsu of darkness and seal them, etc. Whereas when Hiruzen fought Orochimaru lost pretty hard, and he ended up getting under the Reaper Death Cell pretty quick. So that's why we kind of think that these are like two.
Yeah,
Sannin level
Orochimaru
fighters fighting.
lost that fight very hard when Hiruzen actually like squared up with him.
Hiruzen at the beginning. In Jiraiya's case, this is bad because he can't just sit back and let these summons do all the work. He's actually going to have to go and fight them. And Hiruzen should be a tier above the Sani generally, even in his old age. There's a lot of narratives that kind of go along with that. But anyway, really Jiraiya's only chance here, kind of like against Pain, pull out Frog Song.
If he
So this
does
is
pull
really
out Frog Song, I could easily see that working and him winning. Like if he pulls out Frog Song, that's a fair like win con for Jiraiya. But that's a very specific win con. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like,
I'd agree.
only chance, but if Hiruzen rushes in and disrupts this, it could be problematic. Like if he starts targeting Ma and Pa while they're defenseless trying to sing, or like he starts throwing out jutsu, just trying to disrupt it in any way possible, it's problematic. I'm not going to say he can 100% stop it, but I'm not going to say that Jiraiya has the strongest chance of pulling it off, because I really don't think, other than that, I don't think Jiraiya really has anything going for him, considering how well Hiruzen did against Orochimaru
Also,
and summons.
would we give Jiraiya in this case Orochimaru's what is it called, the Edo Tensei? I don't think we would we? We just have Jiraiya Seijima versus Hashirama. Not Hashirama.
Yeah. I don't imagine that they're switching kits at all. I'd imagine that this is literally just like Jiraiya and Orochimaru in the opposite
Welcome,
fights.
Dot Highlights.
Stormfall.
Welcome to the channel. There's someone in the stream literally called Bat Highlights. That's amazing.
Nah, that's my
That's
old
funny.
account.
Generally. And on top of that, at the beginning of the fight, it's been argued by many that Hiruzen's pretty mentally debuffed, like at the beginning of the fight, like he's having trouble fighting his teachers. At the end, I would say he's charged up. So I guess maybe it evens out. But in general, we feel like Jiraiya doesn't really clear this fight because we do know 100% Orochimaru walks away the victor of that fight. In this scenario, his only chance is Frog Song, which is pretty risky.
So next up, we have Jiraiya in Orochimaru's position.
He
against
gets
Four-Tailed Naruto.
he gets ripped on by Four-Tails Naruto, and I'll explain why. Four-Tails Naruto was able to a weaker Four-Tails Naruto almost killed base Jiraiya before the time skip ended. This should be a weaker Naruto, because if we look at the anime, it was a kid Naruto. It was still kid Naruto. So you might even be able to argue that Orochimaru just gets massively stronger comparative to Jiraiya.
Oh wait, so you're saying that the one that almost killed Jiraiya was the weaker from the flashback? Okay. The phrasing there made me think that you were saying that Naruto got weaker.
No, he got stronger. He got stronger from post time skip, comparative to like
Yeah, that
so
makes
I would just argue that even if you want to use Sage Jiraiya, it's a little trickier. You might be able to argue Sage Jiraiya might be able to pull it. It depends on how you want to interpret his fight against Pain, because like the lesser paths were like kind of like swapping hands with him. So I don't know. And those lesser paths were also getting like dicked on by like basic Konoha Shinobi. Konohamaru one shots, yeah.
Konohamaru does.
And this is interesting because Jiraiya low-key kind of already did this in the sense that he fought
Low-key?
he didn't fight, but he was able to suppress like a weaker Naruto that went into the four-tailed state. So you could definitely derive.
But he nearly
certain,
died. That's the problem. He literally got like tagged and nearly died by a Bijou bomb.
certain elements from that, but essentially, don't make me laugh, bro. Essentially, his goal, he's pretty much only goal here is to really just survive against Four-Tails Naruto. In the same sense that Orochimaru did. Like Orochimaru just kind of fought him for a prolonged period of time and just retreated after he kind of like figured out that he wasn't able to take Four-Tails Naruto down. And what I mean by that is like he really didn't.
Yeah, what's crazy is a lot of people don't realize this Four-Tails Naruto should scale above Orochimaru here. Because Orochimaru really couldn't damage him, and all Orochimaru doing was just surviving that fight. You know what I mean? It's
right. It was all just like durability. Like I gotta just keep him away from me.
And even then, that was difficult for him. Very difficult.
Yeah.
Naruto.
Like this snake tactic with the sword is honestly my favorite part of the fight. Yeah, like this is the creme de la creme for me for Orochimaru's kit is just turn yourself into a giant snake neck with a sword coming out of your mouth.
Not able to pierce it, or his Kusanagi blade. So it kind of gets into that. Like,
yeah, look at it. It doesn't even pierce his skin.
In terms of like discussing if Jiraiya really could like breach this Four-Tails Naruto. I don't think so. At least in base, you could probably make a case for Seijima, although I think that's a little bit more debatable.
You might be able to argue that he could like Frog Song this Naruto, but would this Naruto give him the time to do that? Because he's gonna be on his ass. You know what I mean? Like this Berserk Naruto's gonna be on his ass. You know what I mean?
It really shouldn't be too much of a reason that the fight can't progress the same way. it did like it did with Orochimaru, especially since Jiraiya should be stronger at this point, as he's easily being compared to Orochimaru, who just isn't restricted or is restricted, doesn't have his jutsu. Jiraiya's got a lot more options in terms of like maneuvering around the battlefield, having summons available to him, throwing out a lot more variety with his jutsu and like slipping around the battlefield. You can even argue like he pulls like Four Tails Naruto into a barrier, similar like he did Pain. He has a whole bunch of jutsus that he can do. It really just kind of comes down to like Jiraiya's own perception and if he feels he can actually like take down Four Tails Naruto. You can even make a case maybe he suppresses him all the same, but there's no reason he shouldn't be able to just leave the battlefield once he decides that it's too much trouble or he's not
Yeah,
gonna be able to take down.
I think that's fair, saying he could leave the battlefield. I think that's 100% fair. You know, I don't think it's like outlandish to think he could like, you know, retreat and like flee.
Yeah.
Because he could
Yeah, that's fair.
also reverse summon himself to like Mount Miyaboku, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
I mean, like chronologically, this whole video kind of don't
No.
make sense if like they would have lost any of these previous fights anyway.
Yeah,
and
true,
died.
but I think, you know, he could probably.
Down Four Tails Naruto. So, you know, he should just be able to pass the scenario the same way that Orochimaru did. Maybe you could argue like Naruto drops like the Four Tails Beast Bomb, but if you know, there's no reason like Jiraiya can't.
Look at that
to
damage.
deal with it, or he like goes underground or anything like that with his own Earth style. He can even use the Earth style like Mud Swamp and like starts like having Four Tails Naruto sync with his like amplified mass. Like Naruto would just go underground completely. Like there's a whole bunch of little things he can do. So he really should pass the scenario all the same.
That brings us into what Orochimaru is going to have to go through, which is Jiraiya's fights. This is starting with Orochimaru and Jiraiya's position. Against
He
Itachi,
gets
which is
folded like an omelet. Not even close.
Yeah.
They're not even gonna run away from him. He's gonna get folded.
Kisame tried to kidnap Naruto.
So essentially, Orochimaru's goal here is to protect Naruto from Itachi
Now,
and Kisame
you
at the
could
same time.
argue that Orochimaru might not get Genjutsu fucked like last time, in which case you could argue he might be able to protect Naruto actually. Maybe, if that's his only goal. Because you could argue he could flee with Naruto, potentially, you know what I mean? It's weird.
I mean, here's my thing though. This video was so hard for me to wrap my brain around the concept of, because it's like, well, how would the conditions of this fight even be the same if it's Orochimaru in this position? Why would Orochimaru ever protect
I don't know.
Naruto?
My idea is how this fight is basically it's like just giving them that objective in this fight. You know what I mean? Just putting them in a fight and giving them that objective, taking out like character in this fight. So yeah.
As Jiraiya in this situation, he basically has to give Itachi a reason to flee. Now, Itachi's already coming off the back burner at this point, as he already used Tsukiyomi on Sasuke. During this fight, we'll allow that. So he's already not going to be interested in a prolonged bout, similar to like how he was with Kakashi. The minute he used Tsukiyomi, he's like, we got to dip. Orochimaru has a lot of options here to really kind of like make the fight seem like too much trouble for Itachi and Kisame. He could summon the Edo Tensei that he did against Hiruzen, which is going to be
Maybe, like, are we using armed Orochimaru? Does Orochimaru have his arms here? Because if he does, that's like a different story. Or if we're using like armless Orochimaru, you know what I mean? Because it sounds like they're using like Orochimaru with his arms, who's much stronger than without his arms.
Right.
Especially in the war, like he does a lot better in the war. So, if we are, then yeah, 100% you could argue that Orochimaru could give Itachi a reason to flee here. But if not,
extremely detrimental to Itachi and Kisame in the sense that they're not going to want to fight these undead zombies who they have to.
I don't even think they could beat them if they're as strong as they were in their life. I don't even think they could beat them. I think they get fodderized.
Yeah, probably.
Even if like he could Totsuka blade them, he's not going to want to use his MS for a fight that he doesn't really need to have. Orochimaru can also flood the hallway with snakes, making it so that it gives Itachi an excuse to get out of the Elite Village, retreat, same thing. Just like Jiraiya sent him to the Toad Stomach. He should be able to protect Naruto.
Wait, is this guy saying that Itachi just dicks down to a bunch of snakes?
I think he's saying that Itachi would use this as a reason to like have them flee or something. I don't necessarily think he thinks Itachi dicks down to a couple snakes, unless he does, in which case that's crazy.
I was about to say, like, I hope that he's meaning that is just like an excuse, and that like Itachi is like actually not wanting to fight.
Which
him
would
or
make
something.
sense, because in this context, he wouldn't want to fight the Leaf Shinobi. In this context, you could classify Orochimaru as a Leaf Shinobi in this context if he's taking place at Jiraiya.
That's what makes this so weird, man. Is like in character, I feel like Itachi would low key want that smoke
Maybe,
with Orochimaru too bad.
He summons Edo Tensei, and they'll be able to fight alongside them or run Itachi and Kisame off. So next up, we have Jiraiya versus Tsunade and Orochimaru. This one's interesting because actually we have a twist on this with Jiraiya's gonna have the same debuffs
He
that
gets-
Orochimaru did.
Manda is blatantly stronger than Gamabunta. He's getting folded.
It's over.
We don't even
It's
need to
over.
discuss this.
Basically, unable to use his arms and his jutsu, whereas Orochimaru is gonna have the Rufy that Jiraiya
Oh,
did.
is that? Oh, that's even worse. It doesn't matter if he's roofied. He's going to fold Jiraiya.
Poison, however you want to word that. Tsunade is going to be the same. And essentially, Jiraiya's going to have to take on both of them like Orochimaru did. Now, honestly, like the problem with this fight is that, you know, even if we'll also give him Kabuto, by the way, so he can't summon.
You could
Genjutsu, that's all
argue
gonna be fine.
Orochimaru might have even poison resistance, so this might just not work.
The problem is though, is like the way the original fight progressed. Orochimaru, a lot of like his techniques or abilities don't require jutsu in the sense that he can expand his body, like his neck, or he can like regurgitate swords, so he can use swords
I
in his
would have
mouth.
just simply put hand sealed Orochimaru versus Rufy Jiraiya here. You know what I mean? Like drug Jiraiya. But this is even worse than I thought.
Like, yeah, this is really
Jiraiya's
bad.
getting folded.
Ah,
here. Even if you want to say he enters Sage mode, he still might get folded.
Or he can like.
I don't
maybe
know how
have
this
super long-
matchup is even that worth talking about, like in the
He's gonna
video.
have, like,
You know
all
what I
these
mean? I feel
different
like he
techniques.
could have made this like a few
Yeah.
sentences.
that don't really.
I'm gonna
require
skip
jutsu.
over this part.
Tsunade, him getting beat down, he's gonna. I think if you put Manda on the side of Kutsuyu, like even going off the rock paper scissors logic, Jiraiya's gonna be at an even bigger disadvantage.
You
So
could
whether it's from
argue Jiraiya might be able to. Well, no, he couldn't because he'd have his fucking arms to summon things. So then he would have Kabuto on his side. So then wait, he could just Kabuto. Okay, so if we're putting Kabuto on Jiraiya's side and giving Kabuto the ability to summon Jiraiya summons, Kabuto could summon the 3 Great Toads, Gamabunta, and the other 2 that helped Naruto during his fight with Pain. So then that means the summons are a non-issue. Wouldn't it?
I mean, I would think so, but that would Kabuto know to summon those if Kabuto hadn't seen them
I would
before? And
imagine
Jiraiya
he
think
should,
already
since
so now.
I don't know, honestly, it's weird.
the summonings, his arsenal, or just like him getting beat down, he's gonna perform worse than Orochimaru. So he really shouldn't clear this.
Man,
scenario.
Jiraiya
We
got
will see.
packed up.
And then that leads to our last fight scenario, which is Orochimaru and Jiraiya's position.
Okay, if we
versus
don't
Pain.
give him his jutsu, he gets soloed. If we give him his jutsu, it's a bit more contentious. You know what I mean?
Nah, I think he dies either
I
way.
think it's hard to say.
in the Rain Village. So basically, Orochimaru is just
Oh, what
going
the
to
hell?
want to go
Oh.
there to extract intel about the leader, and then he's going to have to. End up
I
fighting
actually
Pain.
think
there's
Orochimaru
no way-
might be able to evade Pain longer than Jiraiya did. You know what I mean? And Orochimaru
Yeah,
is
looks like he's
smarter than
weird
Jiraiya as
snake
well,
stuff.
so you could argue he'd find out more about the Renegon than Jiraiya did. You know?
Perhaps.
way, like when Orochimaru enters, the Rain's going to sense him and the Pain's going to go confront him. There's no way for Orochimaru really to avoid that. So he's going to be forced to start off by fighting the Animal Summon, and he should do much better than Jiraiya here because he has a sensory type. Not many people know that, but he does have sensory abilities. So it's going to be easy for him to sense like the chameleon.
Oh yeah, I
and be
forgot.
invisible.
Snakes perceive body heat, and Orochimaru should be able to do this as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? Potentially.
I was about to say probably just give him like his weird like snake
Yeah.
eyes, maybe. Like,
Given
I
that
don't-
he
I don't
he
know.
hypothetically is potentially in a constant like snake stage mode of some kind, you know, so you
Right.
could argue, yeah, he should be able to sense them. It's weird.
So that's not a viable option for the Animal Summon. In terms of the Dog Summon,
It's
that's, like,
getting
constantly
negged
splits.
by Manda. Not even close. Like Manda's stronger than I believe Gamabunta, who should be like the strongest of the three summons. And if this summon was able to beat the Animal Path, the Dog Summon, I think that Manda should be up to as well. I don't think that's a high ball.
Orochimaru can use like one of his giant snakes just to wrap around it to just subdue it, or one way or another. Or he can just kind of like run away, I suppose. That's kind of how it got dealt with originally. Like his toe just jumped to the other side of the village, and then the Dog Summon just never reappeared. After that, for some reason, once Pain realizes the Animal Summon's not cutting it here, he's probably going to bring the Human Path and the Asura Path instead of the
Why
Prey
would
Path.
he bring
I
the
don't think-
Asura Path instead of the Preda Path? What?
Because he just would, bro.
That's
I mean, what if?
He brings in the Preda Path here because I don't think Orochimaru has like a single jutsu that can be absorbed, really. and Pain's going to realize that. He's going to decide to go with something more offensive. In the offensive
Okay,
path.
I can
And
see
at
that.
that point-
I can see that. That's fair. I can see that. That's
Okay.
a logical argument.
Okay, at least he gave
That's
a
a
damn
logical
reason.
argument. I can see that. It calls it the
Yeah, that-
Austria
that-
path. I love it.
The Austria.
It's going to be hard for Orochimaru because he's
hard,
going to be dealing with
hard
three
for a roach tomorrow.
Pain out here smoking roaches, bro.
fighters all with shared vision. He's going to be able to realize they have shared vision probably faster than Jiraiya, though, since Orochimaru is a good bit smarter than Jiraiya. But anyway, in this position, he could decide, like Jiraiya was getting overwhelmed, they decided to drop a smoke bomb and temporarily retreat, kind of talk over some strategy and what they're, what's going on here, really. Orochimaru might want to do that. If not, he's still in a pretty good position here against the Austria path because, like, he's, as we kind of said in some of the earlier fights, he's basically made out of, like, Play-Doh or something. He's impossible to destroy almost, like, physically, unless you really overwhelm him. Like, it wasn't until Fortail Naruto shot a tail beast bomb at him that he said, okay, this might be bad for me. This might actually kill me. So if Orochimaru is constantly, like, reattaching his limbs and using oral rebirth to regenerate, it's going to be hard for really the Austria path to
You could
make any
argue
progress in this.
Orochimaru, like if you're giving him his arms, might just be able to beat like the Austria path straight up in a fight, because that you could use his war arc scaling, and he has some pretty insane war arc scaling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
How you might even be able to sell him just objectively above Pain potentially,
This fight. Meanwhile, Orochimaru
because he was able
keeps
to
on
fight.
gathering.
Why? He was able to fight.
I mean, do you think Orochimaru is stronger than Sakura before she got the Byakuya?
Probably, yeah. Like if we're taking, I mean, probably.
Well, then she's definitely stronger than Tendo Pain because
At that point, probably.
I gotta stop with the Road to Ninja
Stop it,
ratting. I
stop.
gotta stop
Cease-
with the Road
cease
to
and
Ninja
desist.
ratting. Nah, have you seen the
I've
seen the
not-
vid, right?
I'll plan on watching it later today.
I was about to say, fuck it, we can react to
I'll
it on
probably
stream.
watch it later today.
And tell like he wants to, like he actually came to the Rain Village to do. In terms of how this 1v3 ends up, there's not like any specific scenario we really came up with, like where Jiraiya is able to do something pretty smart, basically puts them in a position where they can't share vision and puts them under Frog Sound.
I think you could argue that Orochimaru probably could do a similar thing, but instead of putting Genjutsu, just kills them. You know, the only one I think he runs in trouble with is the Asura path. The others I don't even think scale to him in any meaningful capacity, unless you want to use the argument of like them like the human path catching Jiraiya's Sage Mode punch as a feat.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that there is a fight. I think Orochimaru probably gets one-shotted by one of the paths, respawns in a new body, and then the paths reassemble in the forest wherever that body was retaken over, and then they just kill him
Maybe.
again. Like I think it's a hunt for the six paths of pain, killing every one of Orochimaru's curse-marked
I
bodies.
honestly don't know how it would go. It's weird.
Scenario,
I don't imagine that he has a single person that he's curse marked that's strong enough to beat. The
If you want to use War Arc, maybe if you want to use his War Arc feats, maybe because it sounds like he's using, God, I can't tell if he's using Orochimaru without his arms or not. You know what I mean?
Considering that Orochimaru is smarter than Jiraiya, maybe he figures out something even better. But that's going to get a little bit more headcanon-y. We still do think that generally Orochimaru is going to figure out the point.
I mean, hey, bro, if you take anime filler into account, Orochimaru and Kabuto's combined summoning power is still below a basic fucking summon of
That's true.
I should have said this at the beginning. The condition
because there's a part where like they summon like a giant snake, and then it's like Naruto with the other Jinchuriki, and like Kurama just like pulls up and just like smacks it down into the ground with like its tails, and then like the other tailed beasts just pull up and just start packing up this giant snake that like Orochimaru and Kabuto
Yeah,
summoned together.
I don't know if.
here is Orochimaru
Shut the
figuring out
fuck
that
up.
Naruto
Jesus
is real
Christ.
pain. 'Cause once he
It's
died,
funny.
He was like satisfied.
It's
with
really
himself.
funny.
That's when, at the end of the fight, when he had the chance to escape, he was like, I still need to figure out what is the deal with the pains. I can't leave yet. And after he figures it out, he gets mollywops. But anyway, in this, not to shade Jiraiya, but in this situation,
Not to shade
Orochimaru's
Jiraiya. This
probably,
whole video he's been shading
Yeah.
Jiraiya.
just kind of stall, and he's going to figure out
This
much
this
really-
video put Jiraiya in some of the worst positions
Oh, yeah.
possible. Yeah, he's got no arms, can't do his
Oh, yeah.
jutsu.
Yeah, this is probably like one puppet master, especially if he defeats the 3 pains and the 6 pains comes out. He's gonna figure out, okay, there's like a puppet master going on here, or they're all.
And
like,
I
the same
actually
person
think
somehow.
Orochimaru could escape better than Jiraiya. I think Orochimaru could have escaped, honestly. You know what I mean? Because I believe at this point the rain jutsu stopped, so he could actually probably get out of the rain village.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's going to get enough good intel. The question is, can he escape and get that intel back to the Leaf Village? He can't ride it on a toad and get out of there. He can't like ride it on a snake because he can't really summon without his arms. This is part 2, early part 2 of Orochimaru, by the way. More than
Oh, he
likely,
doesn't have
they
an
are-
arms. Okay, then Orochimaru gets fodderized. Not even close. If it,
Not even-
because the only Orochimaru I could see fighting is Orochimaru with his arms. Oh, because if he has his arms, he can use Edo Tensei. Oh, that's game. That's GG right there. I just realized he could use Edo Tensei.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
if it's
over.
armed Orochimaru, he uses Edo Tensei. Without his arms, he gets fodderized.
ways for him to escape. Like we've seen him escape numerous fights. Like
Oh,
in
we
the
can
Sonic
hear you
Showdown,
typing,
he
by the way. I'm just gonna let you know that.
I'm so
Oh, no,
sorry.
you're
I'll
fine.
mute.
kind of just poofs while Kabuto slides into the ground. And the Sonny decide not to pursue because they're too tired to. Another situation is Team 7 when they came to his hideout trying to find Sasuke. Kabuto, Sasuke, and Orochimaru just kind of vanish. They like burst into flames and just kind of vanish. We were kind of talking about like what type of jutsu is this? Is this some type of like teleportation jutsu? We're not really sure, but it's like a valid way for him to escape. Or at least give him enough of a head start to get out of the Rain Village and not allow Pain to find him. Like even Jiraiya had the opportunity to escape because he got into a frog and went into the water. He only ended up coming back up because he wanted more intel. So we kind of feel like if Jiraiya had the chance to escape, Orochimaru is like way more slippier than Jiraiya, and he can probably escape. That's not 100%, but we're still generally siding with Orochimaru.
Yeah, my bad. I was responding.
No, you're fine.
We're
But
also
yeah,
not
I
saying
agree that Orochimaru should be able to escape. Because Jiraiya had multiple opportunities too. He's just stubborn.
Tomorrow beats Pain.
Yeah,
For
no.
anybody, that's not what this segment's about. It's more so like Michael Myers type scenario. Can I get out with
Yeah.
with intel? So which is.
But if
more-
you're
more of a
using
situation-
like Orochimaru from like if you give him his arms, he's folding the Powers of Pain because Edo Tensei, and he could summon the Hokage that fought Hiruzen, which is
I mean, like, okay, I think Orochimaru, just for the sheer fact of, like, okay, when Orochimaru switches to a different body after he's, like, about to die, he still has his memories of what had recently
Yeah.
happened, right? It's not like his, like,
No, he
it's
still
not like
has
his
the
memories
memories.
are, like,
Wow, yeah.
partially. Yeah. So it's like, if he was able to just, like, get in, get the intel, get out by switching to a different body, even if, like, losing his current body is considered, like, a partial loss, like, he still got out with what he
yeah,
needed.
at bare minimum.
And like, if the point was to figure out what the Pain secret was, then like the
Yeah.
Leaf would have it.
So it's just like, and even if you don't want to argue he could beat Pain, which you could argue he could based on Edo Tensei, or just Warwick feats, he just escapes.
putting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just
but,
Edo Tensei
yeah,
I
Shibai.
guess just kind of like I said at the beginning, this is like weird conditions, so we're just gonna kind of talk about how they did overall.
Just not gonna
What?
react.
Lost again.
I just said Orochimaru with Edo Tensei Shibai, and you were like, yeah.
Shut up. That's funny.
Just like Orochimaru, so we're not gonna hold that against him. In terms of Jiraiya versus Hiruzen, we have to kind of give him
Yeah.
a L there because if he does beat Hiruzen, we think that's a low chance, and because that's a low chance, that's less than Orochimaru 100% beating him. So that's an L
Orochimaru
for
didn't
Jiraiya.
even. Okay.
Jiraiya versus Four-Tailed Naruto, I guess that's a neutral since he does just as well as Orochimaru. For Orochimaru protecting against Itachi and Kisame, that's a neutral because he does just as well as Jiraiya. For Orochimaru and Tsunade versus Jiraiya, that's a W for Orochimaru because we said that Jiraiya is not doing nearly as well as Orochimaru. And then for Orochimaru versus Pain, it's kind of like I guess like a small L for Orochimaru because we said he doesn't 100% escape or he doesn't 100% get that intel back, whereas we know that
You could
Jiraiya
argue
did.
he could 100% get that intel back. I'm sorry, but what? Okay, so I have so many different problems, but okay. Shit.
And then for we feel like
Yeah,
Orochimaru does
yeah,
better
that was.
because he does much better against Hiruzen, and he also does much better in the Sannin Showdown if the roles are flipped. Do you agree, TG?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they're like, I think they're just, it's more so a result of like them being very close. But yeah, I think Orochimaru just has like more of a, I guess I'll say like malleable arsenal. Like his arsenal's like a lot wider, so it's like it benefits him in a lot more situations. I'd say that. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, and it's kind of I think the thing that really gets him here is in the Sannin Showdown, like if Jiraiya can't use his arms, that's way more limiting than Orochimaru not being able to use his arms. Really. Anyway, if
Okay,
you
yeah, we're
enjoyed this
done. So I'm very.
I would have liked the video a lot more if it had like a narrative that they
Maybe.
had went with it to like try to link the scenarios together. I think that probably would have made it a lot more like
Mhm.
sensible. Like if it was like Orochimaru and Jiraiya literally swapped
Yeah.
paths.
So
Sannin-
the final video we'll be watching.
How the Sannin would do against Akatsuki would do against each
Yeah,
Akatsuki
so
duo.
we are. This is the final video we're gonna watch for the stream, and then I'll probably hang out for a little more but I've got stuff I need to take care of today. I just wanted to try out streaming, see how streaming does. So far, I've been getting decent views, like 2-4 people watching. That's not bad. That's not bad.
For your first stream, yeah, that's not bad. Especially because like I don't, it's not like you have like a server of your own where you like paying
Yeah.
everyone or anything. Like you just post it on my server. So
Yeah.
like you're doing
So basically, from what I understand, this is just gonna be put how the Sonic would do against. I'm assuming he's having all 3 Sonic together for the Ichikatsuki duo, which, if he does, this changes the game because the Sonic work really well together. So I'm very interested in this video. This is actually really interesting to me.
The Sonic together represent what you could argue was the.
Or is he
Akatsuki
taking
conception.
like them during the second Great Shinobi War? Because we don't know how strong they were, but they're much weaker than modern day Sonic. So I don't know.
And as their life passed,
I was about to say
they all
he better be taking them from part
Part
1, early early
like
part 2.
a prime of each of them. Actually, if he takes Prime Tsunade, she mollywops every Akatsuki member because Warwick scaling goes hard. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. Itachi whips out that imperfect ass Susanoo and she says, "Shana."
The only thing that would stop is the Yadamir. But anyways, yeah. Let me stop.
organization. When Yahiko, Nagito, and Conan first approached the Sannin, they all had different reactions to the situation at hand. Tsunade was mostly indifferent, Orochimaru wanted to put them out of their misery, and Jiraiya wanted to train them as a sort of reparation to the Rain Village. Jiraiya did not expect for one of these orphans to be the apparent second coming of the Sage of the Six Paths, nor did he anticipate them starting a criminal organization that would make
Alright,
a world war.
So we're gonna continue without Dot since apparently he has these restroom, can't hold his bladder. No, I'm kidding. Let me stop.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
stop.
just get it. No, just
Yeah.
play the video for a second. I'll be right back.
Towards the end of his life, his main purpose was monitor the Akatsuki, and eventually he died at the hand of his students. This decision to train these 3 random war orphans also nearly killed the other Sannin as well. Orochimaru ironically began working against his will for the war orphan he suggested killing almost off a whim. This resulted in him clashing with one of the Akatsuki's strongest members, which eventually led to his death before being revived by Sasuke in the Fourth Great Shinobi War. Tsunade went on to become the Hokage, which allowed for her to mostly deal with the Akatsuki indirectly. After causing her nation much trouble,
I
and
actually
seemingly-
just got a text from a family member, so I may.
Oh no,
have
you're
to
good, brother.
go.
That's fine.
Right. I'm glad I got to turn to the stream.
Great.
It was really
I'll
fun.
see you, brother.
Yeah. Next stream, I would definitely love to get in on some Dragon Ball
Ooh,
power scaling conversations.
that'd be fun.
I'll try to find some Dragon Ball power scaling videos we can talk about. I like seeing you watch the Super
Yeah.
Saiyan 4 Goku versus Golden Frieza.
Yeah,
that
because
was
a
really
lot of the
fun.
scaling was dumb. But anyways, yeah. Good talk. It was good seeing you, brother.
My next Dragon Ball video I'm working on, I actually got the recording done for it today. Xenoverse 2 power scaling update based on the DLC and some feats I missed from Xenoverse 1. Can I tell you one of them right now that I forgot
Yeah,
that's
sure,
a
go right ahead.
bombshell? Xenoverse 1 Goku was going to destroy the entire Xenoverse cosmology in
That's
base
pretty
form.
insane.
He pulls up to fight Demikra, and it's him from Battle of Gods with God Key
Right.
infused, right? Like it's post Battle of Gods Goku, like that one, because this is already after the Beerus fight. And then Supreme Kai of Time, one of the most knowledgeable people in the Dragon Ball multiverse, says if this fight escalates any further, they will destroy history. No, everything.
That's pretty insane. Xenoverse Goku's insane.
Xenoverse Goku and Xeno Goku are kind of they're kind of
Yeah.
linked. Like I don't know, it's weird that like their names are so similar, but they're kind of separate,
Yeah.
even though they're kind of the same. Like they're a Goku that has the experience of every alternate timeline, the movies, GT, Super,
Yeah, that's just. Mhm.
and then left that timeline to join the Time Patrol. So it's like Xenoverse Goku and Xeno Goku basically have the exact same story. The only difference is Xenoverse Goku doesn't just like casually go Super Saiyan 4 and he doesn't wear
Yeah.
the same outfit. He only goes Super Saiyan 4 during
Yeah.
Parallel Quest.
So yeah. Anyways, thanks for coming on the stream. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Hey, no problem, man. Sorry for that
Oh, no, you're
sidebar
fine,
about Dragon
you're
Ball
fine.
Power Scaling.
And next thing I want to do more Dragon Ball power scaling. Though I also really love Naruto power scaling as well. But anyways,
Oh yeah, I also love Naruto, man. It's just like my most knowledgeable version
Oh,
is
yeah.
definitely Dragon
probably
Ball.
same as me. I'm between Naruto and Dragon Ball. I actually don't know which one more knowledgeable. But anyways, have a wonderful day, Dot.
Hey, thank you, man. I might still
Oh, yeah.
watch it from my
You're good.
phone.
Bye bye. Alright, that was Dot, everybody. Dot's really good, nice. He's awesome. He's a mate of mine. Go check out his YouTube channel. But yeah, let's continue watching.
insignificant war orphan turned her beloved village into a crater. She was the only Sannin to never fight an Akatsuki member, but Nagito forced her to heal her village so much that she nearly died as a result. The Sannin have a long history of the Akatsuki and were mostly reactive or indirectly proactive when dealing with them. But what if the Sannin decided to put aside their differences to directly fight a common enemy? Orochimaru had already indirectly done this by not deciding to kill Team 7 when they infiltrated his hideout looking for Sasuke. He said himself he needed the Leaf Village to keep taking out Akatsuki members for him. For this scenario, we'll say that the three Sannin respect and fear the Akatsuki far more than they did originally. They'll come to believe that they are too strong for anyone else to deal with in the Leaf Village. They'll set aside their differences for the time being and begin hunting each Akatsuki duo since they believe they're the only ones capable of doing so. They have the numbers advantage in every matchup except against Pain, and they also have the advantage of having a match.
So the Pain one, that's going to be interesting, because I actually think the assigning all three of them together could probably beat Pain. Because I'm already... yeah, so we'll discuss that when it comes time.
The conditions for this what-if versus battle hybrid will be that the Sannin will not surprise attack, but instead confront each Akatsuki duo out somewhere in the wilderness. This will make it more fair for the Akatsuki duo, so we'll just say that both teams become aware of each other at the same time. The only win condition for the Sannin is at least one of them surviving and to defeat the Akatsuki duo in this fight. Even if everyone perishes in the fight, it would still be considered a loss for the Sannin since the rest of the Akatsuki is unchecked now. Lastly, to specify, this will be the Orochimaru that fought Four-tailed Naruto but fully healthy. This is the one we know the most about.
Oh, wait, then he doesn't have his arms. That makes things difficult. Oh, yikes.
Plus, this makes sense since the time period for this scenario is early part 2. With all that being said, I'll start off by explaining why these three shinobi are such a great team together, and then talk about how they do against a zombie duo. If you were to create a tier of shinobi that are roughly Sannin level, you likely wouldn't be able to pick three of them that would be better than this team overall. This is because of how well these three cover each other's weaknesses. Tsunade and Jiraiya are not particularly smart fighters, but Orochimaru is. Tsunade does not have the most diverse set of abilities, but Orochimaru and Jiraiya do. Jiraiya does not have much of a way of healing himself, but Tsunade does have the ability to heal him. Orochimaru's attack power is not the highlight of his arsenal, but Tsunade and Jiraiya can make up for that. On top of all of this, you have a medic on this team, and at least a war's worth of experience together. This is as complete as a team of three can be compared to their power level. So to start off, how do they do against something as durable as a zombie duo? While we sadly don't know how the Sannin work together in a fight, we do know how Hidan...
They should be able to overwhelm Kakuzu. Kakuzu doesn't actually have a lot of good feats. His only good feats are being able to speed blitz, or like being much faster than Naruto after his Rasen Shuriken training, and being able to like dominate Kakashi. And I don't think Kakashi scales to the Sannin even at this point.
We can expect for the game plan to be Hidan running around pestering the Sannin while Kakuzu's mask assists him by firing a mutually assured attack. While this isn't some type of attack that is going to instantly defeat someone, it is one that is hard to deal with and can quickly wear you down. Kakashi was quickly roughed up by it, and Shikamaru boldly elected to take Hidan one-on-one instead of fighting team-on-team. The problem is that this is a terrible matchup for Hidan, power aside. Tsunade can heal through fatal wounds, and Orochimaru can oral rebirth if Hidan curses
That's
him.
actually... What?
One-on-one instead of fighting team-on-team. The problem is that this is a terrible matchup for Hidan, power aside. Tsunade can heal through fatal wounds, and Orochimaru can oral rebirth if Hidan curses him.
I wonder if... I don't remember if it's ever explained if he's able to do it from internal wounds. But if he is that, then yeah, yikes.
And Jiraiya possibly can be healed by Tsunade if he is cursed as well. It would also be hard to see Jiraiya being cursed, considering that Kakashi never was without the help of two Sannin as well. It should be no surprise that this quickly turns into a Sannin versus Kakuzu fight instead of a Sannin versus a Akatsuki duo fight. Orochimaru should be able to put a curse mark on Hidan that paralyzes him just like he did against Guru. Even if this doesn't happen, like I said earlier, each Sannin has a way to nullify the effects of being cursed by him, so he's not very relevant in this fight, so this leaves only Kakuzu. It would be a little difficult to say that Kakuzu can win in this situation, considering that he basically lost to Naruto being backed up by Yamato and Kakashi.
Okay, so his loss to Naruto was very circumstantial, because Naruto hit him with a technique that was basically a Duraneg one-shot. I don't think any of the Akatsuki could survive this Rasen Shuriken. So that's not really fair for Kakuzu in this context. So yeah.
And do these three have the firepower together that can match a Rasen Shuriken? Kakuzu's durability seems to be able to easily withstand the two-tails stomping on him after all. A Master Rasengan from Jiraiya is likely not doing Kakuzu in, since it took a Rasen Shuriken to take him down without his Earth-style heart giving him the ability to harden his skin. Orochimaru doesn't have a big attack for him, and Tsunade's punches would likely severely be nullified. The reason why the Sannin win, though, is that they can bail each other out, just like Kakashi and Yamato did for Naruto. Jiraiya's fire style can combat Kakuzu's range jutsus, and Orochimaru's Rashomon gates can as well. If Kakuzu tries to grab one of them, the other...
They're also not taking into account the summonings they have, but maybe you don't want to include the three-way deadlock like that, so that's fine.
Just like Yamato and Kakashi did. On top of all this, they have a medic in Tsunade. Kakuzu has no path to victory, while all the Sani can wear him down, while also
That's
protecting
true,
each other
yeah.
when necessary. They may even have to bring their summons into this fight, but regardless, the Sani clear the first Akatsuki duo without losing a single member. The next duo for them to take on is the Goth duo.
Really?
Pain
They're
and Conan.
already
For the
doing Pain and Conan? God damn.
first scenario, Pain will instantly know the Sani are in the Leaf Village, so the Sani won't get much time to investigate where Pain is. Originally, Conan fought Jiraiya first, and when she was swiftly defeated, Nagato made her retreat. I think that was just to gauge Jiraiya's strength, so if all three Sani appear, I don't think Pain is sending Conan out at all. This also means Pain won't start with just the animal summon. I would estimate that he respects the Sani enough that he actually starts with all 6 paths here. Sage Mode Jiraiya was worthy of 3 paths, so adding 2 Sani will likely be so threatening that he just decides to go all in. One key disadvantage for Pain in the Rain Village is that he presumably can't use Planetary Devastation. He wouldn't want to destroy his own village, and if the fight is taken out of the village, the Diva Path likely won't be close enough to Nagato.
Yeah,
activate
so
Pain.
I do agree that he wouldn't have access to like his chaotic Shinra Tensei or I guess I don't know if it's called chaotic. I don't know if that's like the official name for it, but we'll call it chaotic Shinra Tensei. It's a massive Shinra Tensei used to like level the Leaf Village, and you also wouldn't have access to Planetary Devastation, so that's even more worse for Pain.
Planetary Devastation. In Nagato's mind, he would be willing to lose and find 6 new paths instead of decimating his own village. But anyway, how does this fight go down exactly? The first aspect I want to cover is how the Sani do against the lesser paths, since they will need to get through those before facing the Diva Path. The animal path's Chameleon summon will not be that effective this time, since Orochimaru is a sensory type. As for the dog summon, that can be restrained once the Sani learn that it splits like fission. Gamabunta did this by sitting on it when Naruto fought Pain, and in this situation, Orochimaru could use a snake summon to strangle it as well. After that, the only other offense they have to deal with is the Asura Path, and I think the Sani are capable of taking that down alone. The problem is that when the paths start working together, specifically when the Diva Path starts getting involved. If the Diva Path pulls a Sani into the Asura Path's blade, it could be deadly. Luckily, this is not a 1v1 scenario for them though, so the other 2 Sani could bail the other one out if they get pulled in almost
Yeah,
every
what's
time.
very interesting
Tsunade-
about this fight is how the Sani work together to get each other out of really bad situations. And so if you give Jiraiya Sage Mode here, it might be a yikes for Pain. I think this is
Become
actually a
a
really good
lost
idea for a video. Ooh, I might need to do this video myself.
take the hit and regenerate through it, or Jiraiya could do something like throw out a jutsu for suppressive fire. So I don't think Pain's universal pull combo is that deadly early in the fight, but the problem is dealing with the almighty pushes. Pain was able to easily almighty push 3 Toad summons far out from the center of the Leaf Village, and this instantly defeated them. I don't think this instantly defeats the Sani, as Tsunade did survive the almighty push that destroyed the Leaf Village, but it is not a good exchange for them at all considering how easily Pain can do this. Almighty push will also be very disruptive when it comes to dealing with the other paths too. Anytime the Sani are on the verge of defeating a lesser path, Pain can push or pull them to totally disrupt it. This means that trying to take the lesser paths out first won't be very efficient because they will be spending so much time either saving each other or getting damage from an almighty push. This means that the Diva Path might be better for focusing first, so what can they do in that situation?
Very
to take him
interesting
out-
argument and idea, I guess. I guess that kind of works, maybe.
Out with a close range attack while all the other Pains are alive is not going to be feasible. The Asura Path saved the Diva Path from being hit by Kakashi's Chidori, and Naruto had to defeat all the other paths before even getting close to a powerless Diva Path. Tsunade is a close-range fighter, and Orochimaru does not really have any good long-range attacks here. If Jiraiya enters Sage Mode and tries his Auditory Genjutsu, I don't expect that to work because of the Diva Path. It takes a moment to take effect, and if the Diva Path feels threatened, he can just almighty push Jiraiya far away again. The Sani don't really have any other option when it comes to that strategy, so it looks like they'll have to just slug through the lesser paths in order to have more ways to
I
take on the
don't
Diva Path.
necessarily agree with that. I think alongside his 2 teammates, he might actually be able to use the Frog Song on Pain. Because he would get some distance to use it. He would have to get some distance to use it, so how would Pain be able to reach him with that almighty push? That's what I'm wondering. So that's a really weird argument.
I believe that they can defeat all the weaker paths, but by the time they do, they will be quite worn down. Tsunade can brawl well here, Orochimaru himself can physically do well, and Sage Mode Jiraiya can do well both in physically and in jutsu-wise. They also can bail each other out of universal pulls decently, and withstand almighty pushes okay as well. Tsunade can heal through most physical attacks, Orochimaru can fully regenerate himself, and those 2
Okay.
can at least save Jiraiya from some
Not
type of
bad.
universal pull combo. As for the almighty pushes, they will have to take them on the chin, and they can do that just to an extent though, since Tsunade already demonstrated that. By the time they get to that point though, they will be so worn down from those almighty pushes that I don't think they'll be able to pull off killing the Diva Path. If the Toad summons were defeated with one of these almighty pushes, then how many can the Sani realistically take here? You also have the problem of Pain potentially using it on 2 of the Sani.
What
and then
people
taking the
don't
remaining-
realize about the almighty push is the 5-second cooldown it has. So if Pain is on his own, then you could make the case that with Orochimaru's intelligence combined with Ma and Pa and like Jiraiya and Tsunade, they could take advantage of this 5-second cooldown and potentially like kill the Diva Path. But again, also the auditory genjutsu of oh shit, I just got scared. Who did that? Clinged. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate it. Thank you. We're just discussing here. We're watching New Horizons. How would the Sannin do against Ichikatsuki do? He's taking early Shippuden versions. He's taking like Orochimaru without his arms, but still healthy enough to fight Four Tails Naruto, and Jiraiya and Tsunade as well from Shippuden versus like Ichikatsuki duo, who he's currently doing against Pain. And I think that the Sannin might actually pull it based on what I said earlier. Basically, I think they could buy Jiraiya time to do Frog Song on all 6 paths.
One-on-one. Also, anytime the Diva Path feels uncomfortable, he can just do one of these massive almighty pushes to thwart their attack. This is what he did against Kakashi. He was mostly just stalling to find out where Naruto was, but once Kakashi pressured him, he did one massive almighty push and the fight was instantly over. And the Sannin don't have any way to deal with being almighty pushed either. They can bail each other out when being pulled, but being pushed is just a matter of taking it on the chin. So with all that being said, I don't see them winning because they'll be so worn down by the Diva Path sheer.
Again, I don't necessarily agree, because you could argue that they could keep the Pains busy while Jiraiya does a Frog Song. You know what I mean? So again, I don't know if I 100% agree.
For them to take on is the comrade-killing duo and Itachi and Kisame. Itachi himself is going to be a massive problem for the Sannin altogether. We know that when Orochimaru fought Itachi, he was beat with base Sharingan Genjutsu, despite Orochimaru knowing not to make eye contact. The Sannin are supposed to be all relative, which means they are all roughly equally vulnerable here. If it was just a simple paralysis Genjutsu, the Sannin could save each other, but since Tsukiyomi is near instant, there's no saving each other from that. We also know he can use at least 2 of these a day, since he used it on both Sasuke and Kakashi. So that is almost an automatic 2 losses for the Sannin. Anytime Itachi feels pressure,
I don't
he can use
know.
this to take
I
out
really
one
don't know
for
about
sure.
this.
And we saw how Orochimaru's Hydra transformation did against Susanoo, and it did not hold up at all. The Totsuka Blade was so fast for Orochimaru that he couldn't even register being hit by it until after he had been pierced. So there's 2 surefire win conditions for this duo, and I haven't even mentioned Kisame. Anything threatening the Sannin can do will be shut down by Tsukiyomi, including Jiraiya's auditory Genjutsu. There's not much to say about this fight, based on how we have seen Orochimaru instantly lose against Itachi twice. The other Sannin are supposed to be close in power.
I guess I agree with that. Itachi does kind of like low diff him with like basic Sharingan Genjutsu, I guess. That's fair.
So there's no way they can do much better than them. Even if they try to work together, Itachi's just going to be picking them off one by one, invalidating any of the coordinated efforts that we're trying to make. And Itachi gets Kisame to help him. Itachi has shown that he's well above Sannin tier, so this won't be that hard for him to take on with the help of Kisame. The last duo for them to take on is the Artist duo, who I imagine many people watching will think they stand no chance here. While at the moment I'm writing this, I haven't thought about who would win. I do believe this will be a tough fight. I get tired of going over this, but both Sasori and Data are some of the most underrated characters when it comes to versus battles. Everyone has heard
my only thing is that Datara barely beat or barely lost to a stronger Sasuke, who didn't even believe he was capable of beating Orochimaru. So that would already scale Orochimaru above Datara. So then it's just the 3 of them versus Sasori at that point, because I think Orochimaru could beat Datara here.
To Sakura and Chio, so I'll be focusing more on explaining why Datara is underrated. It seems many gloss over the fact that Datara's C3 is implied to cause village levels of destruction. It took Gaara in the desert to contain his explosion, and that is the defense the Sannin combined do not possess. Another thing about him that is often misunderstood is his entire fighting against Sasuke. While Obito helping him in the beginning was huge, Sasuke's lightning style and intellect was a far bigger advantage. Oftentimes when Datara is put up against another lightning style user, people will just say that their lightning style automatically stops all of Datara's explosives, but it's not that simple. Sasuke is one of the smartest fighters in the series, and was only able to deduce that lightning style is Datara's weakness after making a whole hypothesis about it. His Sharingan could read Datara's earth hand signs, and he knew that some of Datara's smallest explosives didn't work early in the fight after being hit by lightning style. Even knowing that, it wasn't like Sasuke was able to disarm any of the large explosives of Datara anyway. He only disarmed the nano explosives because his Sharingan could see them, and he had the ability to
the
run
nano
electricity through his
explosives
body
are
to
something they
disarm
need to
them.
worry about, but I don't know if it get to that point.
The only other people who can do that in the series are the Raikage, and they aren't sensory types like Sasuke. So it was quite literally the worst possible matchup for Datara, and he still would have won at the end had he not lost his composure. The only times we see him rage in the series is against the Uchiha, so that even furthers how bad the matchup is for him. On top of all that, Sasuke needed one of the biggest plot holes in the series to survive Datara's final explosion. He didn't have enough chakra to use his Sharingan, nor could he run away seconds before the blast, but somehow he summoned Amanda put Mondo under Genjutsu, and teleported the both of them to escape the blast. Getting back to the Sannin though, most of this doesn't matter because they can't even use Lightning Style. I know Orochimaru is said to use all chakra natures, but we've never seen him use Lightning Style once, so it would be silly to say he can use it.
I disagree. I think he stayed to be able to use all chakra natures. He should have some lightning jutsu he could use, so I don't see why that would be outlandish to think. So yeah.
Explosives. This means that Datara's C4 can't be easily dealt with, and his self-destructing C0 is not easily dealt with either. As for Sasori, he is just as problematic for the Sannin. Based on this scenario, they will have no antidote for his poison, and it is questionable how well the Sannin deal with that. Jiraiya has no resistance, Tsunade might be able to constantly regenerate from the damage, and Orochimaru is questionable when it comes to dealing with it. I see many saying that he has poison resistance, but I can't find where that's stated. Kakashi says that Sasuke is likely resistant to poison now, but that was when Sakura was trying to...
He literally says he still has Orochimaru's poison resistance right there. Right fucking there. So, yeah.
Sasori's poison is on a whole different level than that.
Just
it is
like,
possible that Orochimaru can
seriously.
oral rebirth to stop the poison, which I would lean towards working because he's basically creating an entire new body. The last thing I want to mention before getting into the fight is how Sasori and Datara complement each other very well. When they fought in the war arc, they both took to the air on Datara's clay bird. Datara has always been a bit of a glass cannon, but if Sasori were to use his Iron Sand to protect him, it would be a nightmare to breach their defenses. Not only would you have to deal with Datara being in the air, you'd have to get past the Iron Sand as well if you ever want to get close. None of the Sannin can fly, so this will be very problematic for them. I think I've said everything I need to state that shows that this is a close fight, so now I can talk about what actually happens in the fight. At the beginning of the confrontation, I would expect both Sasori and Datara to understand the gravity of the situation, and be ready to be serious. Early in Datara's fight against Sasuke, he realized Sasuke was too laterally fast for him, so he decided
if
to get on his
Sasuke is
feet to
too
drag him.
fast for Datara, you could argue Orochimaru should be able to speed blitz Datara, as Sasuke was not confident in fighting Orochimaru until he was literally like on his deathbed ready to swap to a new body. Literally, that's the only time Sasuke felt confident in fighting him. So it's just like, get shat on. Datara gets shat on.
As a response. This same decision will happen here as well, since they are outnumbered and Datara prefers to fight in the air anyway. It won't be that hard for both Sasori and Datara to get in the air, since they can just distract the Sannin with their own attacks. Datara can use some type of explosive, and Sasori has plenty of ways he can use the third Kazekage puppet to distract as well. Once they're in the air, the Sannin's only chance of reaching them is using their summons. Datara has the ability to fly far above the clouds and at fast speeds, considering that Oniki chased them so far up that his Jonin bodyguard couldn't even follow them. So it's not so much about closing the distance, but instead about deceiving Datara into a false sense of security, so since he's going to want to be just outside their maximum attack range. The only option the Sannin have for getting in the air is using their summons. Jiraiya has Toad summons that can jump far up in the air, and Manda is large enough to at least support them. There are probably some wacky strategies that can be tried, such as Toads jumping off each other in the air, or Manda wrapping around a Toad and extending towards Datara and Sasori. There are some ways that the Sannin can close the distance, but Sasori and Datara aren't going to be sitting still during all of this. When Datara was fighting Sasuke, he was constantly shooting C2s at him in order to prevent him from even trying to get in the air. These C2s are going to at least wear down the summons over time. These summons are also very large targets for Sasori to poison with his Iron Sand. We know the inferior Gold Sand used by Raza could regularly subdue the One-Tails, so what are Manda and Gamabunta going to do here?
I don't.
It is true that Sasori uses way less sand than Raza, but he makes up for it by coating it in poison. Being such big targets will make it easy for Sasori to hit, and possibly even fatally poison any of the summons that jump towards them. Considering that Datara and Sasori's job description was capturing Tail Beast, it would be hard to say that the summons last long here. When Gamabunta took on a suppressed One-Tails in Part 1, he had to rely on Naruto waking Gaara up instead of beating the One-Tails head-on. Even if the Sannin use the summons while they can to get close, so they can use some type of long-range jutsu, none of them should be able to get past
That's a fair argument, I would say.
Very important because once those summons are dealt with, the Sannin have no other good options to get in the air. And even if the Sannin get close to the artist due in the air, the Iron Sand is there as last defense. I know most of this is hypothetical, but it's just hard seeing the Sannin get past both these defenses combined. There are some less viable options they could try that are worth mentioning. Orochimaru extending his neck and blade out like he did against four-tailed Naruto is going to make him too vulnerable. Even if he takes out a wing, that way his neck is completely exposed to any type of counterattack. It could maybe work if the other Sannin cover for him well. If Jiraiya enters Sage Mode and uses Auditory Genjutsu, that could work if Datara and Sasori are on the ground. It appears to only work at medium range, as Pain didn't become disrupted by it until he got closer to Jiraiya. If it was just Datara, it would be likely they would overwhelm him before he gets in the air, or find a way to get him out of the air. But with Sasori here, his Iron Sand adds an ultimate defense to Datara's aerial superiority. It just covers Datara's weaknesses far too well to be dealt with. And even if the Sannin makes something happen here, it's not hard for Datara to get back in the air. We saw both Sasuke and Gaara get him off his clay bird briefly, and he got back on another before hitting the ground. It'll be even easier to do that here with Sasori covering for him. Sasori is also not the type to go down on the first blow either, since his core can just reassemble its puppet's body, so long as it's not completely destroyed. I've more than proven that the Sani would have to do a lot just to get past these two defenses, but if you factor in the offenses, the situation becomes even worse. Datara's C3 would likely not do the trick here, as Orochimaru has Rashomon gates, and Tsunade can use Katsuyu to protect them. Tsunade survived Pain's Leaf Village almighty push after all. The problem for the Sani is dealing with the
Again, I disagree. Hello, Noob Creations, welcome. I disagree with how they scale Datara. I think Datara does not scale nearly as high as he thinks. Because he nearly got killed by Sasuke who doesn't scale to Orochimaru, you know? Because even if you want to say, oh, he got Orochimaru's power, okay, of a heavily suppressed and a heavily weakened Orochimaru, that's fine. So Orochimaru who fought Naruto just blatantly scales above him. So yeah, this fight shouldn't even be that hard of a fight. It should come down to Sasori versus Dasani, and I think Sasori gets kind of dicked on there.
Tsunade and Jiraiya are completely vulnerable to it, while Orochimaru may be able to Oral Rebirth out of it. If the Sannin really push Datara, this attack will come out, and it is practically guaranteed to take out 2 out of the 3 opponents. As for Sasori, his Iron Sand and Poison only becomes more effective the longer a fight is drawn out. Like I said earlier, Orochimaru may be able to mitigate it, but Tsunade and Jiraiya are vulnerable without an antidote here. The threat of being poisoned is going to persist until they figure out they need to take out Sasori's core. The whole point I'm trying to get out here is that Sasori and Datara have a few paths to victory here, particularly Datara's C4 nano explosives. The Sani do not have a very solid way to get Datara out of the air, so long as Sasori is protecting him. And even if they're knocked out of the air, they can just become airborne again and have several ways to take out the Sani. Jiraiya and Tsunade are particularly vulnerable, so if only Orochimaru remains, he will not be able to win a 1v2 scenario. Datara and Sasori's paths to victory are far better than Sani, so I would have to say I expect the Artist Duo to win despite being outnumbered. Their defenses combined invalidate most of the Sani's offense.
I think I disagree. I know I disagree.
Viable ways to deal with the Sani summons jumping at them. Even a fight solely on the ground would be difficult but winnable for the Sani, so if you add aerial superiority into the mix, it would make sense why the Artist Duo should win. I'm not saying it's impossible for the Sani to win, it's just that the ways they could are not nearly as likely as the ways that Datara and Sasori could. Bottom line is that the summons will not last long enough for the Sani to get Datara out of the air, and even if they do, Datara and Sasori can get back in the air while the summons will likely be defeated by that point. Once that happens, the Sani have no good way to close the distance, and Sasori and Datara have several ways to win from there. I imagine this is going to be a very controversial opinion.
It's very controversial. You kidding?
So I do actually want to hear some actual ways the Sani can permanently get Datara out of the air here. After writing all of this, I'm kind of surprised by how bad the Sani did overall. I'd expected them to beat the Zombie Duo, the Artist Duo, and Pain in the Rain Village. It turns out I'd underestimated how strong Sasori and Datara's defense are combined, and it became apparent that the Sani didn't have good ways to get in the air anyway. I would have thought the Diva path would have been more restricted in the Rain Village, but after diving into that fight, it wasn't as bad as
I
thought.
100% disagree.
If a casual Almighty Push can take out Jiraiya's summons, and I don't see the Sani being able to constantly take those hits without being too worn down to fight. Just off the top of my head, I would expect the Sani to beat the 2 weakest teams out of the 4, but because of the bad matchup against Datara and Sasori, they're only able to reliably beat one Akatsuki duo. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please
I 100% disagree. But anyways, I do have some stuff today, so I think that's where we're going to end the stream today. Thank you for everyone who came out to the stream. You know, we watched some cool videos, we did some power scaling. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next stream. Bye!